Tune me into the untold. Everything gonna unfold. You tune me into the untold. Sit back, relax. Relax. Please. Sit back and relax. This is the untold.
All right, yo, it's your boy Rex. We got another episode of the Untold with me. But I'm the least most important person here right now. Like, this is, y'all know I get hyped when certain people show up, and this dude, man, who he is to everybody is who he's been since I've met him, since I was a teenager. Like, this ain't no front. This ain't no this is what he does. And we have to jump right into it. My big brother, YPJ, is here, yo.
What's up with you, Rex?
Bro, see, yeah, I can't. This whole smiling thing, I'm trying to get used to that. But, bro, when I called you and you didn't think twice.
Nah.
You didn't think, and we talked, like, people don't know, like, you like a mentor of mine, like
Wow.
a big brother, like, you know stuff about me a lot of people don't know. And I know that it stays here.
Sure.
Like, I know what type of guy you are, and I appreciate that, man. How you been?
Man, I'm doing absolutely amazing. Busier than I've ever been. But, man, when you gave me the call, I said, we got to have a conversation. Walk down memory lane for sure.
They don't even know. I was telling my wife, people don't know how close me and this dude are. Like, they have no clue.
Nah.
But, like, nah, man, so let's get right into it, bro. Like, so where did it start for YPJ at the beginning? Before the lights, before the hype, before, like, where was little YPJ when it came to what he wanted to do or what lane he wanted to be in? Like, where'd you start?
Well, you know, you and I met through music.
Oh, absolutely.
And most people don't really know my musical side because I don't tap into it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But for me, when I was younger, I always had a great love for music because I grew up a pastor's kid. My mother was at the time, I love you, Mom, but she was very legalistic, man. She was hardcore. You can't listen to rap. You can't listen to this. You can't listen to that. But I love music. My dad came to me one day. He said, look, I want to hear your mama, so you can listen to music, but it just can't have no foul words or nothing like that. So I started listening to jazz. And, man, I fell in love. I'm talking about 10, 11 years old, listening to Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, listening to the Yellow Jackets. Like, I'm a kid listening to Pat Metheny. Most people don't even know who that is. And so I just fell in love with the tone, the sound. And I went to a conference. It was a no, it wasn't. It was some Pentecostal conference. And the musician for the conference, this is in Alabama, the musician for the conference wasn't there yet, man. It's probably about 400, 500 people. And there was this young kid, his name was Leroy Jackson, still my boy to this day. Leroy was about 12. They didn't have no keyboard player, they only had a drummer. And Leroy's mama told him to go get on the keyboard. Now, I'm 11. And he went up there and dude started playing. Like, he was holding it at 12. And I'm thinking, man, because my mother played keys, my auntie played keys, my uncle played keys, my brother played drums. And I didn't really play music, I just listened to it. I loved it. Because I'm thinking you can't really be, two things, I'm going to be honest with you. One, I didn't think you could be a musician until you were older. And in my city, a lot of the guy musicians was a little funny. So I was like, I ain't finna be no keyboard player because they all a little soft. So dude up there holding it, I'm talking about he playing Victory, is mine, he working. And I'm thinking, how he 12? So I came back home, I say, Mom, I want to play. And she was like, you serious about it? I said, no, I want to play.
Wait, how old were you then?
I was 11.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I got on keys, man. My mom taught me my first song was a Timothy Wright song, man. I remember the vamp was clap your hands and praise him. And it was like James Morris sung it, but Timothy Wright had something to do with it. But anyway, played that song. My mama taught me how to play it, man. It was an upright piano at the church. This when we was in a storefront. Upright piano at the church. From that point forward, I started listening like to Coltrane and Miles Davis, picking up on chord structures. So my mom was like, yo, he got it. He can play. Like, this boy can play. man, by the time I was 13, I could hold. Like, I could actually hold. I was learning. My mother told me this, though. She said, you got to learn how to play in every key. You got to learn the hymns. So she took me down a line of not only old gospel hymns, but we would sing a lot of the Gaither songs, like the Gaither.
Oh,
the white
I
folks.
got you.
So I had to learn all of that. Plus, I live in a Catholic city, so my mother would sing at Baptist musicals, Pentecostal musicals, Kojic musicals, and Catholic services, Catholic mass.
Yeah.
So I would go with her and play. I had to learn how to play all these songs, man. So that's kind of how it all kicked off for me. And right around 13, 14, that's when I really started like realizing I had a different style of playing, because I didn't know at the time. I was just kind of playing at our church, so I didn't know. And at the musicals, I would play for my mom and we would leave. But when I got around the musicians, like the guys in the city, man, they used to run me down, dog me out. Oh, his style is weak. He played weird.
Wow.
Like, that's not gospel. That's not. And so it was kind of like a shot. Made me a little insecure. Mm-hmm. But I had an uncle, rest in peace, my Uncle Derek, man. He came, he heard me play. He was like, look, boy, God gave you that. Don't you ever change your style. He don't want you to sound like nobody else. You play like that. That's your style. That's your sound. And then from there, man, that's the evolution of the dream music sound and how I got into like what I do, where it was a mixture of a lot of jazz. Then I disobeyed my mom and started listening to all the hip hop. So it's Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, NWA, and mixing all of the Dr. Dre, J Dilla all together and produce the style that I have, man. So that's how the whole music component of it kicked off.
First of all, now it makes sense, because your approach, I mean, I've always told you that your approach was never normal.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? And for guys who hear normal, I'm not going to say they think it sounds weird. Like you said, they just didn't think it sounded right.
Right.
It's like the minute people don't understand something, it's like, oh, that's part of the world. It's like, what the? A C is a C, whether we playing it R&B C or. Yeah. But no, that's dope, because most guys, because if I'm honest, like, I never really got into jazz that early. I got into it late. So a lot of appreciation that you'd have for that style, or even bringing that into what you do, some of us didn't have it.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying? So it definitely makes sense. So going from 11 to 13, was it hard for you to get, like, what was your mind? Because that's not where your mind was at first, like, far as playing.
Yeah.
So, like, was it hard to grasp, or was it just like one of them things where, like, now I know this is what I want to do?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. It was honestly a natural thing. That's why I know God gives people in a way that's just indescribable. Yeah. Guys will always say things like, man, if you practice, you can get to this level. There's certain measures of gifting that come to certain people's lives that you just can't practice to have. I know you heard of this kid, Justin Schultz.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't practice to get like that. He's not, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Jaden Baker and them, they can't practice to get like that. These kids are just naturally gifted. You know, to me, and this is honestly, it came naturally, but when I think of somebody who has a natural flow for something that's unique, that's you. Because that's when I came across you, man. People don't know this. I met Rex when Rex was like 15 or 16. And I know you don't know this because I was there and you didn't know I was there. They used to have these big musicals at St. Mark's. You remember that St. Mark's?
Yeah.
They had
St. Mark and Harvey.
It'd be like a midnight musical. And it wasn't Janet Harris, is that her name?
Absolutely.
She used to host these musicals, right? Yep. So we drove up one night. And everybody kept telling me about this kid named Rex from Chicago. I didn't know his last name. I didn't know that was actually his name. I thought it was a nickname like T-Rex or something. So they was like, you got to see Rex, man. But at the time, when you discuss Chicago, you talking Calvin Rogers, you talking Kahari, you talking Quinn. You know what I'm saying? Like, them was the guys. So you really didn't hear about this Rex guy. So I'm like, I want to hear this Rex kid everybody talking about. He's so cold, he's so cold. I'm at this musical. This is a true story, y'all. We sitting there. They always put the whack groups first whenever they did the midnight musicals, right? So they had the whack groups, the local groups that wasn't good, and they would make everybody wait to hear the good groups. I don't even remember who Rex played for. I just remember this kid walked in, and I can still see it. I don't remember if it was FUBU, Fat Farm, Cross Colors, but he had a big old shirt on, man. It was like a button down. He had on these humongous jeans, some like boots. And he walked in just like, kind of like chubby little dark-skinned dude, man, with a little goatee.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, he didn't have no... Now, remember back in the day, people used to bring snares. They used to bring cymbals. This dude came in with nothing but a set of drumsticks. I remember this, y'all. And that's what I'm telling you. This man has always been naturally gifted. You sat down on a kid, and they kicked off some song, I don't know. And I had never seen a drummer who was playing, and he started doing this with the sticks, and they was like, all the drummers was around. Bear in mind, this dude 15, 16 years old, killing. Chicago was known for that triplet drum roll where everybody wanted to do it. It was just, that was the thing. But Rex did something totally different. He did it off beat. I had never heard this before. They was playing, and he nailed it. I will never forget the reaction of the crowd because everybody went ham. And when he hit the cymbal, he leaped up off the stool and landed on it. I said, oh, man, who is this dude right here? And I didn't end up seeing you for like it had been a while, and then you came to South Bend with Kenny Lewis and One Voice to our church.
Oh yeah. And
from that point forward, man, I was like, this dude right here, man, this kid right here, he's incredible. You always had the same voice. It was a little higher, but it was still raspy. Like, what's up, man? Like, he was always a cool dude. So when I think about people who had it naturally, I always say, like, you're one of the founders of the Chicago sound, the Chicago style. That's how I felt growing up in my city. There wasn't a lot of people that you could pull influence from. So when I got into it, man, it just kind of vibed, it kind of flowed. And it's been amazing watching how a time frame where I really felt like I was being disrespected for my sound. Now that I'm 45 years old, I'm listening to kids who are in their 20s saying, man, I grew up listening to you. Like, that's why I sound like. There's several major producers, man, that are killing the game right now. I've met these guys, and I'm like, yo, man, I love your music. And they like, you YPJ? Like, and I'm sitting there going, what? You know what I mean? Yeah. But I've always been a fan watching young men, young women that are in the game grow up and do their thing. So it came naturally to me, man, and I appreciate God for, like, giving me the courage to stick with the style I had. You know what I'm saying? So,
man, listen, I thank God that you stopped because there's so many. We talk about it as so many followers, man. And it's like the leaders of that time, they're just now getting their just due, if that makes sense. It was like, because it was a trend. Everything was a trend. It was like, okay, he's doing that, let me do this. Yeah. But it's like, okay, he's doing that, why don't you try that? It's like, well, that ain't popular. Yeah. It's not popular yet.
There you go.
You get what I'm saying? So I think that's, like, I wish at times that I was able to lock myself into really figuring that type of music out early, because I think my approach, like the approach I have now, I used to want it back then. Like, because I was all about the hype. It was just, I told somebody I never wanted to play ballads.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand up and play a ballad. Yeah. Like, I want to hop off the seat, but you just always had this, it was like you had this calm demeanor. I was like, does he hear what he's playing? And we'll talk about Mickey too, because it's the same thing. It's like Mickey. So you're not gonna smile. You not, and she over there
murdering.
You know what I'm saying?
Murdering.
So and we'll get to her for sure.
Yeah.
But like, so in that phase, like, once you knew how good you were, you know what I'm saying? And once you was figuring out your movement, like, where was your first go-to musically, like, coming out of that space in your life?
Man, it was weird because I didn't really know what to do next. I was from South Bend, Indiana. Indiana's about basketball. Like, we about not football, not except for Notre Dame, but we about basketball. So at one point I was like, I'm a hoop. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm going to do. So I didn't really know if the music thing actually had any potential for me outside of what I was doing locally. Because, again, whenever we went to other cities, it wasn't received well. It was like, that don't sound like nothing to us.
So what you were playing wasn't received?
Nah, it wasn't received
really
well. So, you know, we just, I think at one point, man, I was just like, man, forget it. Don't nobody want to bother with me and my style. So I ended up, man, this is crazy how this went down. My aunt used to work for a local electric company, right? The electric company, they ended up buying all new computers, and they donated a ton of computers to our church. My cousin, he went to school for communications and ended up learning production, et cetera. And I had always wanted to build a studio. So my uncle, rest in peace, my Uncle Tim, he built computers. And he told me one day, he was like, nephew, he also played, man, he was a genius, man. He was like, nephew, listen, this is my other uncle. He said, listen, you got to learn digital production. Audio waves are the future. You don't need a studio like back in the day. Everything will be in a tower. And I'm like, man, come on. Because in your mind, you want the studio. I want to push sliders up.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
want to. He's like, no. He said, that's not the future. The future is the computer tower. And you bear in mind, man, this is like 98, 99.
He was way ahead.
Oh, he was way ahead.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting a hold of one of the computers that we got donated to our church. He built it up for me, and he put a program on it called Cubase. You remember, like, the original Cubase.
Yeah.
Man, it was so hard to work, man, because there wasn't all of the technology and all the different sound cards that are available now. But he was like, I'm going to show you how to do it. So from there, man, I was like, man, maybe I could do this production thing, because my uncle is like showing me what to do. My cousin understands a little bit about this. So he and I started working together. We started figuring it out, man. And I made my first digital audio recording. And I'm like, hold up. I can do this without a DAT machine. I can do this without, having an engineer. And man, we started working that thing for years. Then we got a better computer. We worked on that. Started making more sense. I got on a program called Saw. I don't even think they make Saw anymore, but I got on a program called Saw, and then Sonar came. I got a hold of Sonar.
Yeah.
And that's when, man, the whole Dream Music thing came about. And
how old was you then?
The Dream Music, here's the thing, Rex, is a recording of Dream Music, the first album. Nobody has it but me. Like, we did a whole Dream Music record before the actual one that people heard.
Yeah.
It was called Say What. And I'm the only person that's got it. It's in the basement at my house. True story. And I need to make some dubs of it because it's on a CD and nobody has it with me. So we did that when I was about 23 years old. Man, this is when Brent had just started really coming into his own. Like, people don't know this because Brent is incredible.
Yeah, for
Brent
sure.
started with me.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, Brent, Wally, and they were like, we always knew Brent was going to be what Brent is.
Yeah.
Like, ever since he was a little kid, we knew this dude is going to be a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Wally loved hip hop, so he always had a very hard drive, and it was just a different sound. So I took all the young musicians, Floyd Thomas, Reggie Strong was with us back then. It was everybody. I'm like, all right, look, y'all, we gonna all come together. We gonna record. Yeah. Now, bear in mind, man, this stuff it ain't sounding like nothing. It ain't like we had like incredible equipment. So we put together that first record. When I did that album, I could hear a little bit different then. I was like, nah, they're not gonna like this. This is just like way out there. I mean, Rex, we was doing some. I'm gonna find it, man. When I do, I'm gonna rip it and let you hear it. We was doing some out there stuff as kids. So around 24 is when I re-recorded the whole Dream Music project. And man, this is really what happened. People don't know this. MySpace kicked off. My cousin, who I just talked about, he was like, yo, we got to get this music on MySpace. I'm like, what's MySpace? I'm going to show you. So he showed me MySpace. We recorded 12 songs and the computer crashed. I lost everything because this is before you really had hard drives to back things up. A hard drive back then cost $250, and you had to plug it up. Big. It was humongous. You had to plug it up, and I ain't had no money, so we couldn't afford it, man. We didn't know about flash drives, none of that. We was just getting into Waves at a place where we could email them. Yeah. So man, I had the whole rough draft of the Dream Music album on a CD. That was it. Everything else was gone. It was wiped out. And I remember sitting there going, man, I lost all this work that I put in. So when people heard the Dream Music record, that's the actual rough draft album that I had left over. Everything else was gone. So all we could do is put it in a computer and try to tweak it a little bit and even the levels out. So when people hear Dream Music, they're like, man, it's mixed so bad. That's because that's all we had. We had a 2-track of all those songs that we had to tweak. We couldn't afford to get an engineer in there. We couldn't afford to have it mastered. We just did what we did, uploaded it to MySpace. We went to bed one night. True story, the Oh My God song, right? Yeah. I recorded the Oh My God song. I let my boy Kenneth Lee hear it. He says, bro, that's trash. Do not put that out. Now, bear in mind, he ain't really musical. He's like, I don't think people gonna like that. But something in me was like, yo, this is different. This bass line, these chords, I ain't never heard nothing like it. Let's put it out. So we put Oh My God out on MySpace on like a Thursday night. Rex, I woke up the next day, man, and I saw, back then it was like comments after comments. The plays was up to like 15,000 plays. And then it was like, I started hearing from the East Coast boys. Spanky reached out to me. That's how I met DW out of New York. Yeah. All these musicians from all over the country was reaching out like, what is this? Like, where y'all from? Y'all from, they thought we was from Jersey. They thought we was from Philly. They thought we was from, I'm like, nah, I'm from Indiana. And it was from there, I was like, oh, we got something, man. I think people digging this. Then y'all, like Chicago, you, Calvin, it's like, oh, yeah, them our guys. They from the Midwest. Like, absolutely. So that started pushing in. And Chicago was like, yo, they up the street. Yeah. So we got invited to different musicals and we would perform it. But the cool thing about it was, Chi-Town, I love this about Chicago. If you can perform and your stuff is hitting, Chi-Town gonna rock with you. If it's hitting, they might not even understand it, but they gonna rock with you. Man, we did the Oh My God song here at a, was it Joshua's Troop? Is that the name of the group?
Joshua's Troop, yeah. Gerald Gray.
Yep, it was Joshua's Troop. We did the Oh My God song. I know this story long, man. We did Joshua's Troop. And, bro, I was so nervous, like, man, we ain't never performed this outside of South Bend. And so, man, what's his name? I think his name was Mario. Mario hooked us up and got us into that musical. They was like, okay, y'all can do 2 songs. And then, you know, y'all got to get out the way. And we was like, all right. So we brought the whole group up, man. Mickey Young, she on keys. Who was all with me? I think Brent was on drums. Okay. Wally was there. And then my nephew, Derek, who is a monster on the bass, he had just started. So everybody nervous, man. We like, oh, shoot. Joshua Troop get up, and I'm talking about they murdered that night. Like, they like, we going to do a first set. Y'all do 2 songs. We coming back to do a second set.
Oh, yeah.
It was at Fellowship. Church pack. Bro, we get up. I'm sweating bullets, Rex. I'm like, man, these dudes, they not gonna like this, man. So we get them like, how y'all doing from Indiana? We just gonna do these little songs to get out the way. Man, we hit the beginning, take them 10 fingers and everybody clap. Yo, boom, and Brent, he lived for the crowd.
Oh, for sure.
So once he saw that like all the boys was there, Brent was like, oh, nah. So I had told him, I said, hey, man, out the gate, you got to be my Michael Jordan. Like, as soon as we hit, give them one roll at the beginning to let them know we serious.
Yeah.
Man, that dude hit something out the cut. One of them Brent roll. Okay, everybody was set up. They was like, wait a minute, what they about to do?
Yep.
You can search all over the world, but you won't find nobody like Jesus. And then all the Joshua Troops kids start coming back out, like, looking like, what's going on, man? We got to that bass line, and Lil Rodney was there. Lil Rodney ran up on the stage and was like, what is this? Like, we started playing that. He was young back then. We started playing that. We got to the end of the song, and the crowd was going crazy. I couldn't believe the energy we was getting, right? Yeah. So, man, you know, we break it down. I'm like, we're not doing a second song. Let's just be done. Let's get off stage. This is great. So we end on that, ain't nobody like Jesus, no, nowhere. We break it down. We like, thank y'all. We walk off. All of a sudden, I hear the whole crowd going, ain't nobody like Jesus, no, nowhere. And the whole Chicago started clapping, and I was like, oh, no. So you got to realize this is new for us, because everybody else like, oh, that's trash, that ain't. So shout out to Chi-Town, because that was a boost of confidence for us to be like, wait a minute, maybe we are dope. Then we got the call to go to Baltimore. They went crazy. Then we went to New York. They went crazy. So that's kind of how that whole Dream Music started, from a 2-track record that wasn't mixed, and we ended up sending them out for free to as many people that wanted them. We took the church's CD duplicator, ran up all their ink, sent out 1,000 CDs for free, and back then, everybody was dubbing CDs.
Yeah.
Man, that album got everywhere, man. Everywhere. Crazy.
Bro, when that joint, because me and you was locked in by then.
Oh, for sure. That was a wrap.
And I was... Dog, I called you like, bro, are you kidding me? First of all, I was mad because I wasn't playing.
He said, man, why you ain't let me play on this record,
Dog,
man?
I was like, shout out to Brent and Wally. You know, listen, I love y'all, but it was just because Chicago is a vibe.
Oh, for sure.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure.
So, like you said, whether we know the song or not, we can feel the type of energy the artist is putting into this song.
Yeah.
And we can also tell if the artist doesn't really like the song.
Feeling it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But even through your nerves and all that, it's like, bro, you set a whole different, and that wasn't normal. That song, like, even if you listen to it now, it's like, it was one of them things like where you had to be in that moment.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying? To really appreciate that sound.
Sure.
And I'm glad, first of all, I got to meet the friend who told you not to put it out.
Man, listen, you probably see him all the time, and I talk about him like a dog to this day. I'm like, dude, if I would have listened to you, man, because I remember we did the album release for that. You came down there.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't remember. Maybe Swole was with you. Somebody was with you.
Swole was with me, and we drove up.
Y'all drove down. He was like, man, I'm coming down. I was like, you ain't coming down. He's like, I'm coming down. Bro, it was jam-packed in there that night, man.
So
packed. And we was going for it. And I remember when Brent seen you come in, because we had did a bunch of dope songs, but the Oh My God, we had a vamp at the end. He used to go bum 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 bum. And I was like, Brent, go crazy. Brent seen you come in. Brent Easton, to this day, I ain't never heard you play the drums like that. I don't know if he was like, oh, Rex here, man, he lost his mind that night. It was like that was one of my favorite moments, man, when y'all showed up, man. It was cool. And it just, I think that was where a real bond came when I was like, oh, Rex is really, he a man of his word.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about it was, people always say this, you was younger, but you was always an old soul. Because, like, I remember seeing you in the airport, you was playing for Dave Hollister. I'm like, where you going, man? He's like, oh, man, I'm about to hit with Dave Hollister.
Yeah.
I'm like, you like 12. How you on a, how you on a roll like this, man? But you always was, like, cool like that, man. And so being able to just be around different musicians that had a respect for it and we had a respect for them, it just really built that confidence. Then from there, Israel Houghton heard us, man. Israel Houghton through my friend Danielle Stevenson, McMillan. Her last name is McMillan now. Danielle followed us on MySpace, and she inboxed me, which I don't even remember what it was called back then, but it wasn't inbox.
Yeah,
something else. But she was like, yo, this is crazy. Israel need to hear y'all. And I'm like, all right, cool. So she said, we'll be in Maryville, Indiana. How far away is that from you? I'm like, that's like an hour and 10 minutes. She said, well, can y'all come to our concert like in 3 days? I'm like, yeah. So me and Joe and my cousin and my boy Kenny, the one that told me the song sucked, the three of us went up. And so Israel, he was there. He was like, yo, man, he took us backstage. Ty Tribbett performed and Israel performed, right? At the time, people was kind of hating on us because they like, oh, they trying to be like Ty Tribbett, which we weren't. If you listen to Ty's sound and our sound, it was nothing alike.
Yeah,
it was just both of us were really different.
Yeah. We
We loved Ty. So, and I knew about Ty before he blew up. I knew about Ty back when he was doing like Pentecostal stuff back in the day.
Oh, okay.
So we go backstage, Israel Houghton, he's like, yo, I heard you guys are dope. I haven't heard any of your music, but I want to hear some of it because Danielle and like Buddy, what's Buddy last name, man? That played for
Not Strong?
Buddy
Oh,
Strong.
okay.
Man, apologies, Buddy. I know your last name.
Oh, no,
Buddy
that's
Strong.
bro, yeah.
Man, I love Buddy. So they had heard our stuff. So he was like, yo, I heard you dope. So Israel says, I'm going to call you this week. Took my number. I gave him the little CD, man. Bear in mind, this is an unmixed. This is the best we got. Man, I call Israel he calls me like 3 days later. He like, dude, this is incredible, man. Because Israel's very musical. People don't understand. Like Israel and Tommy Sims and them was doing some stuff back in the day that was outrageous.
Yeah.
So he kind of switched up. Him and Aaron, they knew that they had to do something different to get the mass, but they were always different musical. So he kind of musically. So he respected the uniqueness of it. So Israel, man, calls me. He's like, bro, how soon can you put a concert together? I was like, what you mean? He said, I want to come hear y'all live. I said, well, how soon do you want me to? He said, can you do something in 7 days? I was like, yeah. I ain't let me. No, I was like, yeah, I got you. I said, you tell me when. He's like, it had to be on an off day. I think it was like a Tuesday. I said, oh, okay, cool, man. Hung up the phone. I called my mama. I said, Mom, Israel Houghton want us to do a concert. He said he gonna fly himself in. He want to hear us because at the time he had opened a label called Friend of God. That was gonna be his kickoff label off of Integrity with Don Owen. And that, man, back in the day, he was trying to get a record deal.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm like, all right, cool. 7 days, man. We put together the show of all shows. Now these kids, half the singers is teenagers.
Yeah.
They young. They excited. I'm like, don't y'all tell nobody. Like, I gotta wait, and then I'm gonna promote it to the church. If we can just get some of the church people to come, we don't need a lot of people. We just got to perform for him. These kids went back, told everybody, man. Israel Houghton coming out. Dog, we got to the concert that night, Rex. It was people around the building trying to get in because they thought Israel was performing.
Was this the same? This was at y'all church?
This at our church.
Wow.
You saw how packed it was for the album release.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you couldn't. It was like 3 times more people trying to get in that building.
It was jam-packed then, though.
Dude, I'm trying to tell you because they went and told everybody. So Israel, he shows up. I'm blown away. Like, this dude really here. He's like, yo, man, I just landed. I got my rental car. I'm coming over. So, man, he comes over. He in the back in that little wax studio we had. He's like, yo, man, play me something. So I'm playing music for him. He's sitting there like, yo, man, y'all different, man. I'm looking forward to tonight. So we go out, Rex. It's people sitting on the ceiling. It's people, they everywhere. And they walk Israel out first, and you hear the crowd go crazy because he's going to sit on the front row. He ain't finna perform. He came to hear us. Man, we go out. We start performing. I got to give a shout out to all them young people, man. They sung their butts off. The band played like crazy. And back then, I was arranging all the music. So all the set, like Mickey and them wasn't really ready for that yet. So I was arranging like all the sets. It was crazy. We did, I specifically remember what made Israel like turn his head. We was doing that Don't Say Maybe, Maybe Not, a song called Say Yes. And at the end, we went into this Tribe Called Quest off of that Benita Applebomb. We went into that.
Okay.
And the vibe changed completely and the whole crowd was into it. So it kind of went into this like worship moment some kind of way. And I said, Israel, you mind? And he grabbed the mic and he started singing. And he looked at me and was like, yo, man. He's on the mic. He said, yo, God's going to do some really big things through you. Like, you're not just local, man. You going to go worldwide. And I'm sitting at the time, nobody know me. I'm like, okay. So we get done with the concert. He's like, I'm going to call you this week. So he ends up calling me. He's like, yo, I want to sign y'all. Dude, at that time, somebody say that to you, like, what?
Oh, yeah.
We about to be rich.
We out.
We out of here. So, man, like, it ended up not working out, not because Israel didn't want to, but he blew up. Mm-hmm. Like, he had another level. I think that was the record. So he did an album called Deeper Level, right? And then he invited me to come and be featured on that record. So he told me, and this is all kind of how we got into the music part. He said, man, listen, I want you to be on a Deeper Level album, but I need you to cut another record. He said, Dream Music is dope, but I need a better quality album so I can present to these people. This is a true story. Most people don't know. I don't think I've ever told this. We recorded Popular Jesus in a week. Like, most people don't know that a week. That album was recorded in 5 days because we only had 5 days for me to get an album together to get down to this recording. They had already set all their music in place, and he said, I need somebody to kind of rap narrate this song called Shirley, Shirley. Can you come do it? I'm like, I'm there. He said, but I need an album, man. How soon can you get one together? I said, I'll start right now. Dog, we dropped. That's why it's a lot of repeats, song-wise, from Popular Jesus to Dream Music. So I called Brent, Wally, Herschel, Derek, everybody. I'm like, hey, y'all gotta come in here and record like all this week. They're like, for what? I said, I'm about to take a record to Israel Houghton. So we did Popular Jesus, man. And when I say I thank God, because the chemistry that they had as young men and young women on that record was just unbelievable, man. Like, I to this day don't know how we did that. Like that, oh Lord, I owe you my all. All of that stuff was made in 5 days. So we put the whole thing together. I mixed it. I stayed up all night trying to mix it the best I could, put it together. Took that down to Israel, and I don't even think he listened to it. He's like, oh, yeah, I knew he was going to get it done. I'm like, bro, I've been sweating like a dog.
You're going to listen to it right here.
So he put us on Shirley, Shirley, man, and from there, dude, so many doors of opportunity. Shout out to Israel Houghton and Aaron Lindsay. I always give them credit for giving me one of my first big shots. That's kind of how the whole music thing took off, man. With like Popular Jesus was made, then the record deal didn't work out because Israel blew up, so I just released it independently. And man, that album is what made like the whole music community, not just gospel, Robert Glasper, all these other guys, like take notice of what we was doing, man, from there. So yeah, that's how that went down. 2008. That's crazy.
Wow. That's the year I got married.
Is it really?
Yep. 2008.
Wow, man. 2008.
It's crazy because you can tell the role and like just who you are, how that played into the people you were using. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it's not a lot. It ain't a lot of people in that position, especially then, who could just call and they'd be like, all right, whatever we need to do to make this work. You get what I'm saying? But it also shows how you was willing to pour into that generation. And that's something you've never lost.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah, because again, like those guys, Mickey included, of course, but they had a special sound. You get what I'm saying? They had a special sound, and then the bond y'all had really showed through your music.
Wow.
So that's one thing. Like even with me coming down the South, being like, man, please, you didn't have to tell me whatever y'all was doing. I was like, swole, you're not busy because we ain't working right now. We going, but I looked at that in a way of like, yo, this is how we need to move back at home. Because it's the competition thing. And that's why I be telling certain people, man, I'm not in competition with you.
I get it.
I don't care what instrument you play. I don't care what instrument I play. It's enough games going on for us all to win.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that always, like even the people you talk about, like Floyd, Wally, like even you saw who they are now then.
Oh, man, from day one, Rex. A lot of people don't understand that I was blessed, and I call myself blessed, to be able to have watched all of you become who y'all are and sit on the sideline like from Rex with the big shirt on, killing the drums, to being one of the premier music directors, producers in the world. Dude, when I would see you on television, I would just sit there and be like, and this is before YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you was on TV, man, that
was a big deal.
That was it. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't understand. There was a time where it was very difficult to be inspired because there wasn't enough visual presentation for you to grab from. Think about it. Back in the day, you know, people talk about Calvin on Rain on Us. Mm-hmm. And Calvin set the bar for it, but Liddell Abrams was the one that originally made that song what it was.
Absolutely.
And when you heard Rain on Us, you didn't see what he was doing. You could only hear it. So you had to sit and try to figure out, what is he doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is he doing these ghost notes and hitting the floor tom and the hi-hat at the same time? But when y'all was on TV, oh, man. And I remember, I think the first time I saw you on TV, did you play for Cisco or somebody? Or something? It was one of them R&B artists, man. It was, I can't remember.
Now, my big brother, shout out to Gerard Barnes. He's one of the reasons I got the Mary J gig.
So it might have been Mary, but it was a TV gig. And I specifically remember seeing you and going, I went crazy. I was like, that's Rex. Right. My mom was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's Rex on the drums, like on TV. Like, this is crazy. So being able to watch everybody come up, like, a lot of guys may not know who Floyd Thomas is as a musician. They know him as a producer. Ooh, Floyd is one of the most, when I met Floyd, he knew how to play one song. And he didn't even want to play keys. He wanted to play drums. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, you should play keys. He was like, well, I like the way you play. I'm like, well, don't play like me, but you can play keys. And, man, that dude, he's another one. I don't care how hard you practice. He just woke up one day and was cold.
Dog, Floyd.
Like, cold. I'm talking about, he just good at everything. So I watched that. I watched Wally go from, Wally claimed I kicked him off the drums one time, right? Because I used to play drums. Wally, he was at a musical, and what happened was, he was young. He was on the drums, and another guy named Javon Lewis. Javon told me, like, get on the drums, man, because Wally used to drag. He was young. He used to drag really, really bad. And he held a grudge against me for like 2 years. He didn't know me. Oh, he's mad. So finally, man, me and him connected. He was 18, and this is funny. Shout out to Wally. Wally used to hit the cymbals every 2 bars, man. Like, it'd be like, he used to just. And so I told him, man, come work out with me one day. So he came to the church. I'm on the organ. He playing, man, and he's killing the cymbals. I'm like, bro, you got to stop hitting them cymbals, man. Like, you got to hold it, lock in. And one thing about him is he adapts super quick.
Very quick.
So, like, he immediately, like, knew what to do. And he always had an attitude problem. Like, we're still working on that as a grown man. Right. But when I knew he was special, I was like, oh, this dude's special. And he understood music. Absolutely. Like, he was so musical. So then with Brent, though, Brent was just obvious. Like, when he was 11 and 12, it was obvious. This dude is going to be one of the greatest in the world. Yeah. Like, I used to tell him, I'm like, bro, you and Wally, one day y'all going to be crossing in the airport. Both of y'all going to be, and they didn't have no gigs back then. But now when I look at Brent on tour here, Wally over here, I'm like, man, so it just kind of being able to watch everybody come into their own, man, that was a great privilege, man. It really, really was. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, they definitely had the right person to look up to. Because, like, even when I locked in with Brent and Wally and ended up meeting them, like I told them, because it was always a thing, people used to feel like the outskirts of Chicago. So when you had guys that was from East Chicago.
Gary.
Gary.
Yeah.
It was like Kevin Stevens. That was another one of the homies from, and when I would finally talk to them dudes, it's like, yo, bro, listen.
Kevin, man.
Kevin Stevens, dog. Yeah. And I would tell, because Kevin would call me, like, and we, like, when we talked, they would try to pin certain guys against each other. Yeah. And I'm like, So I remember Kevin, I can't remember what session he did, but he did a session at Fellowship.
Okay.
I was right in the balcony supporting him.
Yeah.
Because for me, just like I came to y'all thing, because for me, it's like I can do what I do, but me either pouring into you or helping you do what you do, it doesn't take anything.
Not at all, man.
It actually builds me enough to know, like, okay, I have enough to give somebody else.
Oh, absolutely, man. You've been on the scene so long, though, and people got to understand this. That's why I laugh at guys that are just like, you know, man, they've been playing for a year and they got like one gig somewhere. I'm like, I've been watching you, and I can understand back in that time where competition was heavy amongst insecure people. Yeah. I can see how they tried to play you and Kevin against each other because he was high energy.
Very much so.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He was smiling on the drums. You know what I'm saying? God bless him, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but the thing that I always loved about you is you never change your style. Yeah. And I used to be like, Rex gonna be Rex. Because at one point, let's be honest, and people be hating on Calvin. I don't know, like, if they're trying to be funny. Calvin was literally the standard of the Chicago drummer that
Bar
became
none.
the standard of gospel drumming, that became the standard of drumming.
Everywhere.
Like, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. He went from being the standard of Chicago to the standard of gospel to the standard of drumming because of his precision, his professionalism on the kit. Like, Calvin is my brother. I can't stand Calvin Rogers.
Yeah.
And he is my brother. Like, we go at it. He know I love him. He love me. But when I say that he is the standard, a lot of guys started changing their style, and all of a sudden, all the Chicago drummers started sounding like Calvin.
Definitely.
It was like, man, everybody sound like Calvin now. Like, y'all, like, what happened to? But you always had the Kahari that stayed the same. You had the Rexel that stayed the same. You know what I'm saying? And I would remember that. I'm like, Rex never changed his style. He always, the thing that bothered me about you was you evolved and became so disciplined that he's be like, yo, man, do some of the wild stuff. He like,
Dog,
big bro, I'm
that
not.
is hilarious. Because I got my boy Damo. Shout out to
Damo.
Damo, that's my brother,
Yeah.
man. Dog, he would call me, like, even over the past couple of years, he'd call me, he'd be like, yo, the Ricky Minor Rex is cute. It's like, I like him. And he say that because, you know, when we were Ricky, it's like, all right, we playing the rate. You could do this. But he was like, nah, man. He was like, let me hear the youth fellowship, Rex.
Bruh.
Let me hear the one voice.
Bruh, listen, the one voice Rex, y'all don't know nothing about the one voice.
Bro,
I'm not talking about the one voice Rex that was playing on the albums. I'm talking about the one voice Rex that was hitting at the storefronts and at the gospel fest, where it was almost like, let me let y'all know who I am. Like, I've seen Rex snap so crazy, man, that people didn't even want to, I'm not making this up, didn't want to get on the drums. I think for me, when you know the capability of a person and they're restrained and people are celebrating them like, oh, man, he's really good. I'm like, no. You don't, it's like Aaron Spears, right?
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Aaron Spears.
Oh, my God, I miss that.
Bro, let me tell you something. People think like, oh, Aaron Spears is cold. Most of them ain't never really seen what Aaron Spears can do. Like, Aaron, bro, it's certain drummers. This is true. Rex Hardy, Calvin Rogers, Brent Easton, Chris Coleman, Aaron Spears. When they get on the drum set, the environment will dictate the height of drumming. Like, if it's not worth it, they're gonna do what they do and get off. But if you push them to a place, I've seen you guys get in certain environments and Varro got it too, where y'all just level up, man. And I'm like, what is going on? So when I see you now, you playing at the Grammys and at the Stellars and at the Tonys and everything else you're doing, I'm like, American Idol, he out there. I said, he getting that check.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that boy, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I said, man, knowing, funny story, I was on tour with Fred Hammond. And this I'm going to give Cal.
I'm about to say, we got to talk about this too.
Yo, Fred, man, shout out to Fred. That's like my best friend. But Fred called me one day, man. He said, and I'm going to bring out a story. I'm going to give Calvin his flowers on here. Fred, this goes into heights of drumming. Fred called me. He's like, yo, I'm about to hit this tour. I want you to come out on tour with me, man. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll roll with you. That's just my friends. He's like, man, just roll with me for a month. Let's just do this tour, hit the bus with me, hang out. You know, we always have a good time. I'm like, cool, whatever. I had just went through a divorce, man. I needed to get on the road. So he's like, come out with me. I'm like, bet. Fred calls me the next day. He's like, since you coming, you might as well play keys. Now, bear in mind, I'm pastoring now. I ain't really working on keys like that no more. Yeah, I can still play, but I'm not playing.
What year was this?
Man, it's like 2012.
Okay.
So like, this is a grip ago, right? At the time, this is Fred's band. He got a 4-piece. So most people wasn't doing 4 pieces. They wanted 6, 7. But let me explain who the band was. Philip Feaster was on keys, which is a whole keyboard section by himself.
A section.
That boy could have an organ here, a main here, and 6 color boards, and you would think it was 5 people playing. Lawrence Jones was on guitar, and this is when Lawrence had just come into we knew he was that guy. Yeah. Like, he was ridiculous. Snoop Evans was on bass, and if you don't know who that is, Google him. Like, he's ridiculous, and Calvin was the MD. So they had a 4-piece. Fred had released all the other people. He had them 4. He's like, yo, just come out, play. You might as well, you're going to be on the road with us anyway, play keys. I'm like, what you want me to play? He's like, play organ and play aux. Man, I'm sloppy. I'm like, so I got to learn all this music, right? I go to the first rehearsal, and Calvin like, you really finna play with us? I'm like, bro, I don't really want to, but I'm going to do this because Fred asked me to. He's like, well, don't be, this was, I never forgot, I can't stand Calvin. Don't be trying to hide on the organ and be padding. Like, you got to actually play something. I'm like, man, shut up. So I get on. I'm learning the music. Philip is trying to show me this stuff. These licks they doing is outrageous, man. My fingers sore. I got a small board. I'm taking it to the hotel. I'm practicing while they all out eating. I'm trying to stay up on stuff. dog, we went on the tour. We had a great time. Everything's great. Now, what most musicians don't know about tour life is there's a lot of repetitive musical emphasis during a tour. A drummer is going to pretty much do the same thing every city. Keyboard player is going to do the same thing at the same place. The bass line, you start like knowing when the drummer is going to do this roll, when the guitar player is going to do this lick, because it's monotony.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And depending on the crowd, if the crowd ain't really with it, it don't make you want to play. So you just do what you got to do, get your check, and you leave. We had been kind of touring, just going through the motions. It was killing. Everybody was having a good time. So I knew every drum roll Calvin was going to do. I know every lick Philip was going to do. I knew every chord. I had it memorized. Like, I knew. So I had learned the set. We went to D.C. This is a true story. Calvin, I'm giving you your flowers. We went to D.C. The D.C. show was different, Rex, because they had a ton of artists on the show. Byron Cage, Donnie McClurkin. It was Ty Tribbett. I think it was Maurette Brown Clark. And it was Fred. Fred was the closer. So I think Maurette opened, then Byron Cage, then Donnie, then Ty, then us. Well, man, everybody had a band, and there was 5,000 people at that show. Everybody didn't just have a band; they had the band. So Jamal Moore played for like Byron, like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jamal Cole, like he's the second coming of Aaron Spears.
Yeah.
So we up top. Calvin and them ain't paying no attention because they just used to touring. We up top. I go down. I'm watching. These dudes is going crazy. Their bands are going ham. Like, they killing, right? And we last. Man, every band was mopping. I'm talking about they're all going nuts. And I'm saying, hey, y'all don't hear that? And they like, oh, man, yeah, we hear him, blah, blah, blah. So we get to Ty. This is when Ty had just made his comeback, where he was that greater than, and people had forgot about Ty. Ty had a whole new band. Yeah, he didn't have sound check no more. He, oh man, what's that kid's name? Dude on the keys, I can't remember his name, but incredible. He got Turtles on the bass. Like, this new band was nice. Yeah. And Ty seen me backstage. He's like, what's up, bro? What's up, dog? You know, he's like, who you with? I saw him with Fred. He was like, oh man. He's like, y'all better bring it because we going crazy tonight. He said, matter of fact, this is a true story. He said, what song you want me to do first? I said, do No Way first. He said, hey, we gonna do No Way first. Dog, let me tell you something. Ty Tribbett went out there. He's one of the greatest performers, period. They kicked in that. They started off with that Q-tip. Yep. Man, they went into that No Way. Them boys started killing. By this time, we up next, so we're all backstage. I go to Philip. I go to Lawrence. I go to Snoop. I go to Calvin. Now, so let me tell y'all something. I know y'all been repeating that same stuff every night, but you not finna go out there and let these dudes make us feel like we the weakest link on here. I know what y'all can do. And you guys know this is a true story. I was like, I know what y'all can do. I said, Calvin, don't come out here with them weak drum rolls that you've been doing every week. I want you to do what you do. He was like, man, whatever, man. I was like, Calvin, do you hear what's happening right now? I said, we got to let them know who we are. Now, bear in mind, I'm the weakest member in the band. So I'm hiding behind they excellence. Dog, I don't know what vein I hit. Man, we got up that night, Rex. This is a true story, dog. We started off with Day That Way. Dun, 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 dun. Calvin started off with a drum roll that I have never heard in my life. If I could get a hold of that show, he hit something so crazy that literally Ty ran out of the back to hear what was going on. When he landed that first roll, I said, oh, we in trouble. And all of a sudden, man, Snoop, Lawrence, Philip, that was the greatest I've ever heard him play. Like, it was almost like he was trying to let them know Chicago is here. Yeah. I don't care what y'all doing out here in D.C. Chi-Town is here. Bro, we started, when I say that was the, Calvin Rogers that night, man, was the Calvin Rogers from Ricky Dillard when everybody was trying to figure out who this dude was. The Calvin Rogers when he first hit with John P. Key, like when he had a rag on his head and was, dog. Them boys was so wild. They made me look like I was cold that night because they was just... Long story short, we got to the last song, This Is the Day. We did This Is the Day, and that transitions into Bless. Man, we got to the end of Bless. Calvin did this roll, and he's steady going because usually he chops it up. I know when he's going to hit what. He doesn't hit none of the licks. He just keeps going, and the crowd is going crazy, and it looks like this dude is getting ready to mess up because we hitting our part. Because usually it's like, like I hear he's not doing none of that. He just
He just
going ham. I'm like, he finna mess up. This dude lands when I say he landed it right on the one precisely, and it wasn't no metronome, wasn't no track.
Mm-hmm.
On the one precisely, though, I jumped off the keyboard and ran into the audience, which the crowd went crazy when they seen that because that was just showmanship. And that was the day I realized, I was like, man, people really don't know what y'all can do. Like, y'all dudes gig so much, and that's the same way I always looked at you. I'm like, Rex gigs so much, y'all don't know what he can really do. So a lot of these young boys be like, yeah, I respect Rex, man. He's a great producer. No, bruh. Like, no. Like, even I'm so glad you started dropping some of those videos.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I'm like, yo, this brother, y'all don't understand. The stuff y'all doing now, he was doing that when he was 17, 18 years old. Long story, man, but I just thought about that. I'm like, y'all always, so to be able to just be a part, man, I got so many music stories. Like, man, it's just incredible to be able to see what y'all doing.
That's
now.
crazy. People don't, that's what this interview is about. I mean, we gonna touch, because it's a lot of parts of you that the world needs. We've needed. Some of the parts we didn't even know until you showed up. Because if there's times, if I can't pick up the phone and call you, I'll be like, bro, wait, you still on the plane? I need you now. But it's crazy because people don't know how heavy of an influence you had on a lot of us and a lot of others in the musical space because you are who you are at this place. You know what I'm saying? But then, like, you were the battery some of us needed in our backs. So because it's like to hear you say, because you don't just, I told you, if I could talk like you, they would have to pay me to shut up. The way you put your words together. But seriously, it's like the way you talk, the way you push people, it gives people okay, all right, he got me. I know he ain't just talking. So even for Calvin and them to hear that night, like, yo, we not going, because Calvin knows who he is.
Oh, God.
If don't nobody know.
And it's ridiculous, man, because he will intentionally not play.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you'd be like, bro, what is you doing? Like,
who you mad at?
YPJ, just stop, man. I'm just trying to I don't feel like, I'd be like, man, you are so sorry.
You'd be like, you selfish.
Yeah, man, quit. So, and like one time I told him, I was like, man, it's a lot of little kids that came here to hear you play, man. Oh, my God. And this is the thing. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. But nah, man, just like really watching all of you dudes emerge in your own way in different areas. Like, people don't understand Mary J. Blige's sound is Rex Hardy. Like, of course they talk about the production of the old songs, but if you ever saw Mary live, like, I'm like, this dude was doing, come on, y'all, let's be real. Rex was bringing MPCs to churches when nobody was doing that. Come on, man. I know there are other people that probably participated in drum machines, but you were one of the first when it was looked down upon.
Yeah.
Because if you played a shout track, people thought that was weird. Like, I remember preachers used to be like, turn that off. That ain't right. My boy, one of my spiritual sons, Terrell, said his uncle told him it's not natural.
Yeah.
Turn that off. It ain't natural. But I remember people being like, that's too much. And Rex would come in with a fully programmed show at a church with a bad sound system.
Absolutely.
And be like, nah, you got to plug this up to the sound system, man.
Or we'll bring our amps in.
Bring in the rolling amps. And all come on, man. I remember that. And I'm like, this dude got it. So from there, all I saw was Rex started the MPC thing. Next thing you know, everybody was trying to use MPCs. So I was a part of that whole journey of seeing that wasn't there. Rex did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, with Calvin, I look at the way he would set his drums up. Calvin used to do these weird setups on his drums. Dudes try to do that. You know, the dancing on the drum. People was not getting hydraulic stools until Rex Hardy. This is real stuff. Like, people don't understand. Like, this stuff really happened. People don't give Kevin Randolph enough credit. He brought jazz to the church scene in Chicago.
Oh, my God.
The Fender Rhodes was not something that churches was using until Kevin Randolph. Am I telling the truth?
Oh, facts.
Like, all of this stuff is history that's frowned upon. And I'm like, yo, man, y'all really don't understand, like, the whole music scene and how it evolved in Chicago. But I was around. I remember when DeJuan Watson was first coming up. He was from Gary. And it was like, who is this little dude? And he came with a different style. So it's like when I look back over it, man, I'm so glad I was born in the Midwest. I do appreciate the hardships of dealing with people saying your style is weird. No, it didn't. But it was cool because at least I got to see all these different sounds and styles, man. And when I look at it now, it just blows my mind. Like, yo, I've been knowing this dude since this time or that time. So I've always tried to be an encouragement, man, because I always had a great appreciation for what y'all did.
No, I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell because you encouraged us all the time. You get what I'm saying? But it's all, I can also tell because you were one of them guys, still are, you weren't afraid to cross that line. And when I say that, the musical line, because what we did, some of it was definitely frowned upon because it wasn't a church thing.
Oh.
So it's like I would see Gerald Hayward hopping off the seat. I see Teddy. I'm like, well, I'm just playing at church Sunday, but I'm going to take my hydraulic seat.
Listen.
You get what I'm saying? And you never, like, you was always like, there's more. That was your thing.
Always.
You would always say, like, fellas, there's more. And I took that.
Always, man. I'm surprised you brought that up. A lot of times I would say that to people, and they was like, man, you can't even do the stuff that you asking us to do. I'm like, that's the point. I wasn't gifted with what y'all got.
Yeah, Phil Jackson couldn't play like Michael Jordan either.
Yeah, but he could see it.
Exactly.
He could see it. Like I used to be taught, like back to Floyd. I used to talk to Floyd and be like, bro, I see it, man.
Yeah.
I remember telling Floyd when he was 20, you better than Art Tatum. He was like, I'm not better than Art Tatum. I said, yes, you are. Now that was a stretch.
Yeah.
But I needed him to believe that. And I remember telling him that. He was like, man, I can't do that. Next thing I know, he was doing everything Art Tatum could do. And I would be sitting there like, so when Mickey came up, my little sister, like, people don't know, Mickey used to be, and this is the truth, the coldest basketball player in the city. She was like a Division I recruit. She played for Chicago, for UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, right?
Wow.
She played for just a season, but she ended up getting pregnant with my nieces, and so she had to come back home. But when Mickey, man, one day she sat down on the upright piano at our house, and I said, oh, shoot, she got it. Like, I knew right then and there, I was like, Mom, Mickey can play.
How old was she then?
Man, probably 9, 10. I don't know. Don't quote me, but I think she was little.
Yeah.
And then she could play the drums.
Yeah.
Like, she get on the drums, and she had that poo ta 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 poo ta 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 poo.
That's her groove.
And I was like, yo, Mickey could play the drums. Then she started playing the saxophone. Like, I'm like, this dude can play. So I had a Trinity, man. Remember when the Trinity board for Korg was that was the one.
Absolutely.
So I had no, let me fix that. I had a Triton because the Trinity had went out. They didn't sell it
We got,
so I got
the
a Triton.
LE.
That was the cheap man's version of the Triton. So I ended up getting a Triton, man. And God told me one day when I was praying, He's like, give your sister that Triton. Now, bear in mind, the Triton, that's how, people don't know, that's how Pharrell made all them beats on the Triton.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All that grinding, that stuff was on them sounds on that Triton board. I was like, give it to Mickey. I'm still using it. But I knew in my heart I was supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Man, I gave that board to Mickey, bruh, and it's been sky's the limit ever since. Like, that girl, one day she was playing, and I remember telling her, I said, one day you're going to be better than me. And she would be like, nah, bro. I said, Mickey, you're going to be better than me. I said, I can hear it. And, man, when I say, like, people don't understand, Mickey can play. Like, it's not like people thought, Mickey's cool, man. No. Mickey can, and she can sing. Y'all know she can sing.
Yep.
But when I say she can play, and when people hear her production, a lot of times they'll be like, in the beginning, they would be like, man, YPJ must have helped her with that. Bro, I had nothing to do with none of that.
Yeah.
None of it. I used to tell her, you need to do an album. You need to do an album. I don't know. Man, she put out that first record, and it went from her being YPJ's sister to me being Mickey Miller's brother. Like, that's how, you know what I'm saying? So, so like, when I look and I'm observing, I'm like, dang, God, you really let me be a part of some amazing journeys and amazing stories. And it made it worth me having to deal with the criticisms and the people that say, oh, you play weird. Because I was able to encourage y'all. No, there's more. Don't listen to them.
You always said that.
Do what you doing. And, man, seeing how you took R&B to a whole nother level, they all act like they came up with this stuff. I'm like, dog, that's Rex. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, me and Teddy, I ran into Teddy, man. Teddy pulled up on my church the other day. It's been a few months now. We walk out of church. John Gray had just preached at my church.
Oh, I saw you put this in your
bro. A car speeds up, runs up on the side of our church, man. My people, they pull.
Yeah.
So they looking like, oh, we're gonna have to kill somebody or something. Teddy jumps out. Now, it's one thing to see somebody. It'd be like if I was in Mexico and you just got off the elevator. It'd be like, why are you here? You know what I'm saying?
Real.
For Teddy to be in my city, I was like, he got out the car and I didn't even know it was him at first. I had to look and turn my head. I was like, that dude looked like Teddy Campbell. I was like, Teddy? He said, what's up, bro? I said, oh, man. So we ended up, connecting. He had a show with Boz Skaggs. He's like, yo, bro, come to the show tomorrow. I'm like, all right, bet. Got together. And when I was with Teddy, I was like, yo, man, a lot of people don't give you enough credit for what you did for music, not only in Chicago, but globally. And we ended up talking about you. He said, man, I remember when I got Rex on that gig, man, like for what he was doing over here and there. Yeah. He said, I always knew he was special, man. I always knew he was special. And so like just to watch you go from being a dope drummer to a dope programmer to a flat out producer who has, deserves more album credit than people know. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of stuff, I'll be laughing like, it'll say produced by so-and-so. I'm like, no, that was Rex did that. You know what I'm saying?
Be like / Rex already.
It's been a joy, man, just to be a part of it. Like I'm older now, so I have a greater appreciation for it, man. I appreciate the journey. God is good.
Oh no, man, it's phenomenal, man. I love the era we came up in. I wouldn't take that back for nothing.
No.
I would, and there's no disrespect to where we are because music evolves, it changes, it goes back, it goes forward.
Yep.
But there was a certain bridge, little area that we was in where it was like we had the old, but we were still connected to what was new.
Yeah.
And that's something you've always had. Like you saw it before we saw it a lot of times. And for us to see, like my thing was I never wanted to let my big bros down. So if you all would tell me, same with Teddy, if you all would tell me something, Teddy was like, yo, man, just start reading. I was like, got it. I didn't know why he was saying it.
Where did that come from, though? Because I remember you went from like literally, man, you went from doing like what you was doing, and I look up and you in a tuxedo. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
What was funny is, so my parents, I learned how to read when I was younger.
Okay.
I was in a marching band and the whole nine, but it was like drumline, like the way Nick Cannon was, that's how I was.
Okay.
He was a little bit further over the top than I was, but I was a dude, we played from field, but it was just like, you got to learn something. So I learned how to read at a young age, but the reading never played a part in what I was doing.
Sure.
So once Teddy told me that, it was like, got it. Let me lock back in. As soon as I locked back in, that's when everything started rolling. And that's a whole. So, yeah, I tell people all the time, I was nervous about it, but I'm not going to run from it neither.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, if we this close and you can do something, I'm sure it's just a matter of time before I grasp a hold of what you're doing. And that's what happened. Like, that's when Idol started coming, Ray Chew started calling. It was just another level of like, oh, man, maybe I do belong over here.
Oh, yeah, man. I remember specifically, I want to say, it wasn't Idol. It was an award show or something. I don't even remember which one, but I just remember you being in a tuxedo of some sort, a black suit or something. I was like, yo, man, he reading because he had the charts next to him. Like, I said, when did he start? So I never really knew that journey. And I specifically recall there were several opportunities for a couple of drummers that you were like, yo, man, I can get this person on. One of them was Wally. He was like, yo, I can get Wally on, but he got to be able to read.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, man, you going to have to read. I said, Rex said you got to read. And I said, the thing about it is, you guys are so good that if you hear it one time, you can just play it by memory. Yeah. And they wouldn't even know. You could be staring at the sheet music, can't tell what's on there, and still it would sound like y'all was playing it. But I said, you need to learn how to read. So for you, man, I think what you did was help a lot of guys to set a standard of, okay, I can be dope over here, I can be dope over here, and I can be professional over here. And I can go from making $100 playing for a musical to getting some career money playing over here. And for me, man, it was just funny. Like I said, it goes back to me always being like, yo, man, stop playing in the pocket. But it's the level of professionalism, man, that I watched you go and grow to. And another thing I always loved about you, Rex, was what you mentioned earlier. If you could help somebody with an opportunity, you did that. And a lot of guys didn't do that. They just, I don't know what it was, but they did feel like, oh, man, I want to be the only one. I don't, you know what I'm saying? And I always appreciated you doing that. Like, yo, man, I'm going to put this person on here. I remember you called me one day. He's like, yo, man, I'm ready to make a change in my life. I don't really want to do this anymore. I'm trying to figure out if I want to go here. And I'm like, man, you could do it. Like, it's going to take some faith. You could do it. Step out. So I'm going to do these cover bands. You started doing the joints that y'all do here in Chicago. I had never seen that before, where you built a whole show around like stems. I said, man, this dude's so creative, man. Like, how come I didn't think of that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just, man, it's amazing coming from the Midwest. And I'm going to say this to everybody. Please hear me when I tell y'all this. To me, the best musicians come out the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so whenever they try to argue with me and say, well, no, I'm like, so you telling me that Miles didn't come out the Midwest? And before I even go into the jazz musicians and go into all the gospel musicians, I just end the whole argument and be like, Prince and Michael Jackson came out the Midwest. Y'all ain't got nothing else for us. You know what I'm saying?
We don't have anything else.
You ain't got nothing else to say.
We ain't just talking about Chicago, the Midwest.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Motown sound, Chi-Town. You got cats from Indianapolis that was crazy with it.
Absolutely.
Cleveland was crazy. Cincinnati was the jazz scene. Like, when you talk about Minnesota, it's so much sound, singing-wise, music-wise, that came out. But the gospel sound, what people need to do is really respect what Detroit and Chicago were doing.
Oh, my God.
Because it was, like, I remember hearing Myron Bell on drums and Liddell Abrams. Like, bro, people need to give Liddell his flowers, man.
Oh, I agree.
Like, Liddell was special. The way he was playing with that little small snare, everybody wanted
so
that.
Small.
You couldn't even
I went and
rimshot.
bought one because of him.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it was a sound. Like, people don't give enough credit to Maurice Fitzgerald for what he did on the bass. And how Sheree Reed is a whole thing. Like, he's a whole experience.
Yeah,
They don't
he's in his
respect
own
it.
space.
I'm just saying, man, what was it? Anthony Harmon before he passed. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? Like, he was the upside down bass. There's so many different sounds, and we can go back even further, you know what I'm saying? Like, to the old days of the Thompson community singers, you know what I'm saying? And just and all of that. But it's amazing to see how it's branched off. Because when you talk about Damo, I'm like, Damo's from here.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, man, Damo Cole from the West Coast. He's not from the West Coast.
Damo is
man,
absolutely
Ethan is
not
Cole.
from
No, Ethan is from here. You know what I'm saying?
JJ, they're from here.
From here.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, y'all don't understand. It's so many amazing Midwest musicians, and I'm just blessed, man. I can't talk about it enough. I'm blessed.
People don't see this side. They don't know how much of a music head you are.
Oh, man. No clue.
They don't get it yet because you turn it on and he's speaking to the masses. He's speaking to me on Sundays, but it goes so much further. Like, you understand, the culture of what it means to be a part of a certain sound, a certain group. So your appreciation for it is completely different than somebody that's just looking at it because you are part of it.
Yeah. You
get what I'm saying?
I still marvel over the opportunities that I receive by never having to sell my soul or compromise. Like my mother told me years ago, she's like, look, God will open doors for you that nobody can shut.
Right.
And if you just keep doing what you're doing, you know, you'll be blessed. And man, to have come from South Bend, Indiana, to meet all of y'all, still don't know how that all came to pass, to being Grammy nominated with Fred Hammond, to winning on a Grammy Award album with Israel Houghton, to having music that went across the world, you know. And I look back on it now, man, Rex, it just blows my mind. I travel and I meet people and they're like, yo, there's a whole group of musicians outside that want to meet you. I ain't sat down and played like a gig
Right.
in 12 years. And I haven't recorded a record. I think the last album we did was 2014, something like that. It's been like 10 years.
Geez.
So I haven't put out music in like 10 years, man.
So then that means, when do we start working?
Man, listen.
No, because I'm gonna ask you on here. I don't want to leave out the studio. So we gotta. What are we working on?
So I have skeletons of songs, right?
Okay.
And every person that's heard it is like, bro, what are you doing? You gotta put this out. I'm like, man, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't. Brennan's always on me. Wally, he be talking crazy. He be like, man, you ain't finna do that. You ain't finna do that.
Wally got his studio now.
Everybody set up now.
So
I ain't got no excuse. I really don't, man. And it's really sad because I always laugh about this. There's only 3 drummers that ever played on my records: Herschel Williams, Wally Norris, and Brent Easton. And only one other drummer got an interlude, and that was Spanky. That was
wow.
it. So I was like, Calvin always used to tell me, he was like, bro, you whack, man. I ain't never played on none of your albums.
Oh yeah, we used to feel away.
I was
and
like,
then you said our name in a song.
Always.
That's when I was like,
had to
okay,
get
so
y'all
he gonna throw the dart and then turn it. How he gonna have Brent going crazy? But again, like most people in those situations, we was looking at you like, yo, you are smacking the industry right, and we just wanted to be a part. But at the same time, it was so dope to see it all come together, and again, see other guys get a chance. To show, you know what I'm saying, show y'all bond personally, musically.
But you know what, Rex, that was always my thing. It was like, for these guys at the time, like Brent and them, they don't need me now. Like, they all doing their thing. But at the time, there wasn't a bigger platform for them. They weren't.
Yeah.
Brent ended up playing for J. Moss, him and Floyd, but they started with FEC. Like, that was the first major exposure where people was I remember Chris Dave asking Robert Glasper, who's playing that Oh My God song?
Really?
He was like, who is that? And he was like, man, I told him, I said, Rob, this is a kid named Brent Easton. I said, he's incredible. You know, on the Popular Jesus record. Chris was like, yo, that solo at the end is...
And Chris don't ask about nobody.
Nobody. So when he said, he gave him, because Chris is cold-hearted. When he gave him that from props, I was like, yo, man. And, you know, Chris to Wally and them, he's just...
Oh, man, please.
Because Chris is, man, that's a whole nother... Somebody asked me the other day, they was like, who's a drummer that revolutionized drumming? I was like, Chris Dave was so good, he got bored and made up a whole nother style of drumming.
Completely.
He created an entirely different style of drumming. But anyway, I always wanted... Shout out to Chris Dave. I love that dude. But with Wally and Brent, Herschel, all of them, I was like, man, it was so cool that you guys be like, yo, we'll hit on the records for you. And I'm like, I really want to record with Rex. I really want to record with Calvin. Terrence Palmer was like, yo, I'll play bass on your records. Like, to have all of these guys that I admired that would be like, and love their sound, but I would always say, but you know what, man? I started with these guys. And now it's starting to blow up. I don't want them to feel like, nah, forget y'all. Let me get Liddell on this record now. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah, let me let y'all do y'all thing. And when it comes back full circle, you know, so now it's like, forget y'all. Y'all all great now. I can get Rex and all of them to play, do their thing. Like, y'all don't need me no more. So I think, too, I'm excited about possibly engaging in the music scene again because I can finally do some collaborations outside of them without them feeling a way about it. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, we get it now. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, man. We'll see what happens, man. I'm just trying to, I don't want to say I'm trying to find a motivation. That's an excuse. Motivation is something that you have to conjure up yourself. But I guess the question I've always asked myself is, man, what does that even look like now? Because music is so different. But we're gonna work it out.
But I think that's something you do it because you want to do it. Yeah. Because if I'm honest, if we had this conversation, if you do something with the focus of like, well, what is it for, or why am I doing this, or where is it gonna go, then most likely we ain't never gonna do it.
That's true, man.
Because honestly, we wouldn't be sitting here we'd probably be talking, but we wouldn't be sitting here doing it like this.
Sure.
Because you know all the reservations I've had just about life in general. Like, what's really going on? Yeah. So but you already know, once you start that process, it's game over. Like, we'll put flesh on the skeleton.
And people don't believe me when I say it, man. And it actually makes me emotional because I've never had this conversation. I can pick up the phone and call the greatest musicians in the world: Rex Hardy, Philip Feaster, Lawrence Jones, Calvin Rogers. I can call guys from the South, like the Young Boys, that's just flat out killers. I can call them from the East, from the West, and be like, hey, man, can you get on this song for me? And they're going to be like, yeah. It's not like, oh, man, YP. And I'm like, God, you bless me with real relationships with these people because I don't never ask them for nothing. And to know that y'all would be willing to do it, it blows my mind, man, because I know for sure there are people that would cut off their left toe for y'all to just like be featured on a short track. So I think sometimes we take for granted that we have that access. Yeah. And I'm in a season where I'm like, man, I'm getting older. Let me do this record and let me bring to life these sounds I hear in my head and give it to the people that actually have the skill to manifest what I'm hearing. Because when I heard the Oh My God song in my head, here's a fun fact for you kids. The original Oh My God song on MySpace, that's me on the drums. The original one, that's me on the drums. Brent did the Popular Jesus version.
So was the version he did, was that like the remix version?
It was a redo.
Oh, gotcha.
Let's say it was a redo.
Okay.
And what happened was Brent didn't say what, Wally did all that. He's more than a friend. The record was done before the computer crash, and the Oh My God song, man, I've never told this story. The Oh My God song came to me. I was sitting in the studio on a Kurzweil piano, and I was listening to Fred Hammond's Bless. Dun, 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 and I'm like, man, that's cold, but it needs something around it. So if you listen to My Everything Is Jesus, that's why the keys are going dun, dun, dun. And then I put that.
Dog, that line is...
Do you know, and this is a true, I've never told this story. When I heard the dun, 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 I said, man, this came to my mind. I know it's God. He said, son, the chords are not the emphasis. If you wrap the chords in a complicated bass line where the lead guitar and the bass are doing the same thing and the drum beat has a African hard hit to it, it's going to blend the chord structure in and create something that nobody's ever heard. I heard that in prayer. So I got on the keys, I played it, dun, 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 and originally it was just boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da boom. And I'm like, nah, that ain't it. So I started humming over the top of that. I was playing it back on the computer, and I started going. I was like, nah, that ain't it. And man, out of nowhere, I just heard. I sat down, Rex, and started trying to figure out how to play that. This is a true story, man. Picked up the bass. I can't play bass no more, so don't ask me. And I started working that out with my finger. So the bass and the drum, that's all me on that song. Like the original one. On the Dream Music record, that's all me. People don't know that. So Mickey and them played on a lot of other stuff, but the Oh My God song, every instrument is me. Every instrument is me. So when I put it all together, Brent was the first one. He don't even know this. He was the first one that heard it. And Brent was like, man, that drum beat crazy. Because I sat down on the kit that was in the studio after I put all of the instruments together, and I was trying to figure out, like, what's going to be the drum beat for this?
Yeah.
So, man, I sit down, and I'm like, boom, you could I was like, yo, that's kind of crazy. So because I'm not a great drummer, I looped the 4-bar and looped it, so it sounded like I was playing the whole thing. But when we got to the bridge, my everything is Jesus, I heard like, wait, this is the truth, man. I was like, what would happen if the drummer just kind of like followed the boom to boom to boom, boom to boom to boom,
gotcha, yeah.
boom. So that's how I came up with the whole thing, man. When I put that whole thing together, I was like 3:00 in the morning, and when I hit play for the track, bro, that thing came through the speakers like, boom, and I said, oh, we got something. This is cold. So I let my boy hear it. He's like, nah, man, that's whack.
The same. What's his name again?
Kenneth, Pastor Lee, man. My boy, that's a councilman, man. Shout out to you, Kenny.
Yeah, I want to meet you.
Man, listen.
I want to meet you. That's great.
You like when we got it done, I sent it to you on MySpace, Calvin on MySpace.
I remember that.
And I was like, hey, let me know what y'all think about this. Man, he was like, bro, that drum beat crazy. So
Because
like,
it wasn't normal.
Nobody knew that was all me. The whole song that's the only song I did every instrument on that song, bro. From the bass line to the keys to the organ. And I never told nobody because I never wanted to put that emphasis. So a lot of people don't know I play like that. They don't really know.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted the folks to be on the kids. Like the kids did this, they did that. But the Oh My God song was the last song we recorded. And then from there, man, it kind of blew up from there, man. That's the first time I ever told that story, bro.
On the Untold.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear that?
I've never told that story, man. So, but now Brent took it and made it what it is.
Brentnized it.
Yeah, he made that song what it is. And my nephew Derek, once he got a hold of that bass, like it's something totally different. But
yeah.
I look back on, man, even like it's a drum roll on that song that I do at the end. I got that drum roll from John Roberts, Lil John Roberts.
Lil John, okay.
Lil John played on the Red Velvet VHS tape,
yeah,
Janet Jackson.
Yep.
And when they did that, dun, 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 and he soloed, the drum roll that John did on that solo he did on Janet, that like I got that from him. So like I was like one of the only drum rolls I could do. So I did that drum roll on that song. And this is a true story, y'all. I messed up. But because of how it landed, it sounded good. I was like, that kind of sound kind of good. So when you hear this offbeat roll where it sounded like I messed up, but I landed it, I really did mess up because I don't really play drums like that.
Yeah.
But I left it in, and when I would hear kids shedding to it, they was doing that drum roll. I'm like, yo, that drum roll was a mistake. And they like, yo, man, that roll was crazy. And I'm like, I didn't, you know?
See, but that's a feel.
Absolutely.
Thing, because then you could have played it perfectly
and yeah,
without the right feel, and they'd have been like, you've been like, well, that was a mistake. They'd have been like, well, it sounds like one.
So then let me ask you this. I know this is your interview, but when did you, like what I talked about earlier, the triplet, when you did the offbeat joint, man, what made you do that?
Honestly, I got that particular lick. That was a lick. That was one of the first licks as an adult I learned from Calvin.
Really?
It was just the way I played.
I hate it now then. If Calvin was responsible for it, forget that lick.
No, I remember, bro, because by this time, Calvin was already in the mix.
Oh, man,
He was making moves, and I was just like, when I would see him play, I was just like, I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah,
like, the room don't shift when I get on the drums. And I always used to look at it like that. I'm like, I want to be the type of musician where when I sit down, the entire room shift like, oh, this is the vibe. I don't care if my grandmother was out there.
Oh, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so that particular lick, he came to the crib, staying with my mom. And like I said, he was making moves, and he showed me this. I was like, soon as he left, I just kept practicing.
Bro, you took it to another level. Because I remember one time, man, you hit that lick, it was like outside. It was at Gospel Fest.
Bro,
I don't know who you was playing with, but man, and that thing came through that. Because remember, back in the day, Gospel Fest sound was like unbelievable.
Man.
They subwoofers and all that stuff used to hit. This is not Millennium. This at Grant.
Grant Park.
Bro,
Absolutely.
I remember being like, yo, Rex is out of I see you that night. I was, back then, I was single, he was single. We was young.
Oh, yeah.
We was all trying to holler at something back then. It used to jump. Like,
it was
used to
going
jump.
crazy.
And man, I remember that roll. I'm like, yo, he is. But now that you say it, I do remember Calvin doing something like that, but it's like you should. You take it and you make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Because like I said, he was the bar.
Yeah.
So for me,
absolutely.
it was just like, it wasn't because you got guys, they'll see you do something or they'll act like you don't even exist no more. It's like, bro, you know what? No worries. But I was the type, it was like, okay, I'm going to tell you I learned this from you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to flip it to where people like, oh, yeah, Rex been putting his work in.
That's Rex thing, man.
You know what I'm saying? That's all it is, just taking and, kind of attaching yourself to it. But I've always appreciated that about the guys that came before me, how it was something they would do that was worth me taking and being like, okay.
Yeah, y'all didn't pass it on because I'm seeing this next batch out of Chicago, like Clemens, Poindexter, and the Maddox boy.
Josiah,
man, and then there's a young boy. He my nephew named Tony. Little Tony, short little Tony.
From here?
He from here, but he played for Mike Todd now.
Oh, yeah. Facts, yeah. Oh, my, what?
Bro, let me tell you something. Tony, like, I remember, and I love that boy. That's my nephew for real. Tony, I went to go play at I went to preach at a youth thing in Gary, right? It was for, rest in peace, Pastor Oliver. Embassies ambassadors. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I forget the name of the church. But anyway, they had a youth retreat, and I seen this little short dude, like he was on drums, and they had an electric drum set. They didn't have no real drums; they had an electric drum set. And man, I'm watching this boy play, and I've never heard anything like him. And I remember I said, "You from Chicago?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm from Chicago." I said, "Man," so then I went to Bill Winston's faith conference, and I seen him there, and this dude. This little guy was going nuts.
Oh, yeah.
He was so small, but when he got on them drums,
He sounded so big.
he sounded like he was 8'5", man. And I remember what is happening? So then I heard Calvin told me, he said, "Man, you ever heard Clemens?" I said, "No, who's that?" He said, "You gonna find out." He said, "Wait till you hear him." So then they showed me this little chubby kid. Like he was only like 18 at the time. And Philip was like, "Oh yeah, he crazy." So I ended up seeing him somewhere, man. He got on them drums. To me, he was Calvin Reborn.
Oh, 100%.
At the time, he was Calvin Reborn.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he sounded like a grown man on them drums, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. Then they kept telling me about the Maddox young man.
Josiah and Leonard.
Yeah, it was brothers or something like that, right? Yep. Man, I heard, dude, people don't know how much I pay attention to what's happening on the music scene.
Definitely you do.
And I'm sitting back going, man, what is happening right now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Mylan Phelan, that's my little son. Like I call him my little son. He went from when I met Mylan, he couldn't play nothing.
Yeah.
Like he was insecure. I said, hey man, by the time I told this boy this, he was 14. I said, by the time you turn 18, 19, you're gonna be touring. You're gonna be gigging. He was like, no. I said, no, I'm telling you. Man, he on keys now. That boy cold. I'm like, I'm watching these kids, bro.
Oh my God.
And I don't get it. I'm saying, look, all of y'all was good.
Yeah.
But what happened was they were watching you guys from the time they was 6, 7 years old with video.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man, it blows my mind the level of I know it's got to feel that way for you watching them the way I felt watching you. Like,
absolutely.
What is really going on? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that little dude, and shout out to Monte.
Yeah, his dad. Yep.
Because that Monte, that's one of the guys, his choir I used to play with.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So seeing his son, I go to the studio to link up with Eric Dawkins and Warren Campbell.
Yeah.
Who's in the studio?
Mylan. And he a sponge,
I'm
man.
like, bro, what you doing? He was like, oh, yeah, my boy in there. Like, and he sat down and started playing. I was like, bro,
couldn't play nothing. I'm talking about he could play what's that Travis Green song? You Made a Way.
That's all he could play?
Like, he couldn't play nothing. And I used to be like, man, you gonna be cold. He was insecure. I don't know. And I talked to him the other day. I'm like, it's been a few months now, but I'm like, man, Mylan, you unbelievable, man. Like, to see just the level of skill, it blows my mind. You know what I mean? So I'll be laughing because I post these little funky videos of me playing the piano at night when I'm bored in my house, right? And these kids be hitting me like, yo, man, you cold. I'm like, bro, I'm doing nothing.
It's nothing to you.
It feels that way. But the funny thing is, Rex, it's just me being myself. And that's how I tell them. I said, it isn't that I'm really doing anything. It's just that I'm still true to what I have. Yeah. And that's what makes y'all be like, oh, so if we could get more of these young people to understand, like, if you just be true to what you have, it's going to evolve into something special. Aaron Spears for years was just a legend. Like, people would tell me the legend of Aaron Spears. They'd be like, yo, and I miss him, man. But I remember people telling me, you have Aaron Spears. I'm like, who is this dude? Because, again, YouTube just came out and there wasn't no videos nowhere. They're like, he played for Usher, man. It's nothing like him. There's nobody like him. And, man, that guy, what made him unique, and I'll get this to you, Rex, what makes y'all so unique is y'all so good, but y'all still so humble. And it's hard to remember. Aaron was the nicest person.
One of the nicest people on earth.
On the planet. That's why people, oh, nice guys finish. No. Aaron Spears was one of the nicest guys. And when I finally got a chance to hear him, I'm like, this is unreal. So to see kids now who have access to y'all and they're able to learn from what you guys learn from, I'm one of the ones that wants to serve as a historian to say, hey, I was a part of the beginning of that sound. Yeah. Like, y'all didn't create that. You know, don't think, you know, somebody told me the other day, they was like, yo, man, that sound, that so-and-so. And I'm like, nah, he stole that from my sister. Yeah. I'm like, nah, sorry. And then when he asked me, like, well, my favorite artist is Mickey Miller. Well, what you don't realize is, son, you really got that from me. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Like, she turned it into something else. It evolved. You don't know your history. You know, so these kind of conversations are so important because people really don't know the history of, like, what's Edwin Baker?
Bam, drummer?
Yeah.
Edward Bam Bam?
Bam Bam. Yeah. Like, people ain't going to talk about him now because he's older now. But there was a time where he was one of the dudes.
I told somebody I'm having him on here.
You need to have those guys.
I'm having him on here.
I'm telling you, man, Steve Huff, like, guys like that don't get their credit. Like, Huff was the first bass player that really was thumping back in the day on them Tommy records.
Huff came from somewhere else, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and so when people don't know the history, to me it's disappointing because it's like, somebody say something the other day, there was this dope kid, he was dope. They're like, oh man, listen to this kid play. I'm like, bro, he stole his whole sound from Robert Glasper. Like, Rob is still, he's still relevant. How are you not able to, but that just shows you how fast people kind of just move away from, you know, so I love the fact that I've been able to watch this history of music, man. I never get to talk about music because most of the time it's conversations about ministry. But, man, to know the history of the Midwest, even the West Coast, I was laughing. Was it Thomas Prigden?
Oh, Thomas Prigden, yeah.
I'm like, people don't even really remember him, but he was doing the GMWA and all them different things. And I remember he would come in town, and we didn't know what was going on. Like, right. He was so fast. We were like, what is this, man? Yeah. Tim Biz Williams, rest in peace to him. Like,
that was my man. Oh, man, I miss that dude.
Bro, people don't know nothing about, like, the guys who, I'll be laughing, man. We talk about Gerald Hayward. But Eddie Hayward is also somebody you got to speak to about history because he was only 12, 13 playing that God Is in Control.
He was so much older than us. They was like, y'all about the same age. I was like, not him sounding like that.
When he did God Is in Control, he was a little kid. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when you start finding this stuff out, you're like, wait a minute. He was a kid doing that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these names are forgotten. Like, I don't think Gerald get enough credit for
Hayward?
Yeah, he don't.
Oh, man, listen. No, I tell people all the time, man. Most of us, if not all, wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Had he not, because he made it cool for a church dude.
Come on, man.
To play that type of music.
Come on, man.
I don't care how you feel. It's coming from me. Gerald Hayward made it cool to play hip hop and R&B.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying? Like, and you're right. He doesn't get enough credit. And you know what? Why we here? Because what I try to tell guys is, because people will be like, man, like, is this show just about, not giving flowers, but like, oh man, they on this dude. No. This show is about y'all seeing people who are on a level that you all respect, still giving the respect to the ones that help us.
Oh man.
And that's the only thing I be trying to get people to see, man. I don't care what I've done. A lot of what I've done wouldn't have gotten done.
Come on, man.
If it wasn't for, and I will never lose focus of that.
Dude, that's what makes you special. And that's why these kind of podcasts, to me, are so premier. Because I remember being a young man looking up to Wendell Lowe, looking up to Danny Weatherspoon, Mike Weatherspoon. Was it Curtis Clark?
Yeah.
On bass, like,
man,
Curtis, Curtis, back in the day, like, Curtis was doing stuff, bro. It was just like, so when you see it, Lil Tony don't get enough credit for what he did to change bass playing globally.
Oh, Tony sat there for 3 hours.
Man,
he got it all off his chest.
Man, listen. But one thing I always gave Tony was his credit.
Yeah.
I used to be like, Tony, bro, every time I'm like, hey, man, people, when Calvin and Tony did Not Guilty, they changed music. People can say what they want to say. They changed music. It made everybody go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, we got work to do. Like, we gotta put in that work. I just preached at Bishop Dale Bronner's church this summer, and Ricky Dillard was a special musical guest, and we were sitting in the back talking. Ricky's crazy, and I said, Ricky, man, you don't get enough credit, because Ricky was allowing stuff to happen musically back in the day that church wasn't having. Like, he was putting R&B licks in songs, and church wasn't doing that. They was scared to do that stuff. Yep. And he would go, Ricky was smart. He had Calvin when he was young, but then Ricky, he heard about you. He's like, I'll put him on my record.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he heard about this part, I'll put him on my record. He was like, I want to see what all these dudes can. I remember one time, man, y'all did the No Limit album release. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to put y'all up on game. The No Limit album release took place at Sweet Holy Spirit. Ricky Dillard had Rex Hardy, Calvin Rogers, what's his name? Anthony Singleton.
Yep.
So ladies and gentlemen,
you definitely know.
He had Derek Hearns on bass, Rick Robinson, Kevin
Mike
Randolph,
Taylor.
Man, rest in peace.
Oh
Mike.
my God, man. Yeah, Mike.
Dog.
MD.
When I say I ain't never gonna forget this, you couldn't get in. Shout out to Kenny Lewis, who got me in. Me and my boy, we can't. Kenny, Kenny. Come on, man. Come with me, man.
Kenny always walking to the front of somewhere.
I don't know how you do it. So we sat on the front row, right by the drums. Dog, this is a true story, man. Ricky Dillard had the No Limit record, which is top 5, one of the best gospel records of all time. Like, you can argue this top 5. So Ricky's like, we gonna have a good time today. Everybody just come on, let's praise him. And they started off with what's that song? Oh man, oh Lord, don't let me forget.
You ought to been there, was it?
No, that was second. What was the first? One thing if I desire to
dwell
in the house of the Lord.
Yeah.
No, not that one. Dog, what's the name of that song, man?
That was Another Chance.
That was a different album. The song was Holy Place. That's what. So I never forget this, man. We sitting down. They start with Holy Place. This is when offbeat drumming had just started emerging. Because sleep on it if you want to. Doobie Powell and A$AP Ward on that Kim Burrell Everlasting Life. And Alex Dawg, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
They put together a masterpiece.
100%.
So A$AP and them had at the beginning of the I Keep Holding On, and Doobie hit that offbeat, get a real grip. Nobody knew what was going on. Dog, they started singing that Holy Place. They got to the end when they hit the harmony together. In the heart, bump, bump, bump.
Yeah.
This dude, Calvin, I'm sick of giving him his props. I can't stand. Please understand, y'all. I can't stand Calvin Rodgers.
It's a thin line.
I can't stand it. This is. I want everybody. I'm Cat Williams right now. I can't stand. No, that's my brother. I love him. Matter of fact, I'll probably call him when I leave here. That dude did an offbeat where he went for the entire duration of them singing in the heart, and he wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
Landed it. Crowd went crazy. The next song was You Ought to Been There. He killed that. And then they did something else, and Rex got on. And I remember people saying, oh, what's Rex gonna do? I was in the audience. I heard it. It was like, oh, because Calvin had just mopped the whole church. He's like, oh, what's Rex gonna do? This dude, Rex, got on and played a slow song. I don't even remember what song it was.
I don't either.
I specifically recall at the end, Rex, you did a roll. Somebody got to get footage from that concert, man.
I'm sure it's somewhere.
Bro.
Yeah, it's somewhere
Rex
on
did
VHS,
a roll.
I'm sure.
It's got to be. You did a roll at the end of that joint, man. That was so crazy. There was no worship in the building. It was supposed to be a worship moment. It was so much flesh because we all was like, woo!
Flesh.
It was all flesh. Wasn't no worship nowhere, man. And it was that day I was like, okay, Rex can go with anybody because Calvin, what he just did, and for you to have to go after him, it was insane.
No, people don't understand the role I played being in his shadow. Because I didn't look at it like me being in his shadow. I was just following who I should have been following.
Yeah.
But what it did for me was, like I used to tell a lot of the guys that was trying to sound like him, I was like, bro, they're going to call you to be you.
Yeah.
Believe me, because nobody's closer to this dude than I am when it comes to that lane. But I had to find my own voice.
Yes.
Everything I was doing was coming behind what Calvin had already done.
Yeah.
So it's like whether I was playing for Ricky, when I started playing with Dave Hollister.
Yeah.
There was certain gigs. It was like whatever he was doing, it was like, oh, if I'm available. But again, I knew I was coming in as a sub in some of those cases, but it made me even more nervous because you know what he brings. When he sits down, it's like, oh, okay.
You know, Fred couldn't find a drummer for a very long time. When Calvin left,
really,
that was a tough time for the Hammond camp.
Wow.
So that's I ain't name dropping, like Fred, one of my best friends.
Oh man.
So I've been there. Like, honestly, when he called you to do that music for the play, that's why he called you. He was like, well, I know Rex, like he'll give me that sound I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like, because
that's what he said.
Bro, let me tell you something. This is a true story, dog. Fred had some of the, I ain't gonna say no names because I don't want them to think that they wasn't good. Fred had some of the best drummers hit with him after Calvin left. And I used to be like, what you think about him? He would say this, man, he good, but it's just, I said it ain't Calvin. Then it was, all right, what about this dude? Oh man, he good, but it ain't, you know. And I'm like, dog, so when he was like, yo, man, I'm about to do this play music, man. He said, I got Rex playing on it. I said, oh, you call Rex? He's like, he the only one that's going to give me that sound I'm looking for. So when you talk about how close you and him were, I think the biggest thing that with you was you had the same level of professionalism to realize, all right, I play drums this way, but I know what he want to hear. So I'm going to hit the drums this way because this is a job. This ain't got nothing to do with me sounding like someone. This is a check, a job. You know what I'm saying? Let me go ahead and do what I do. And I think that's the problem that a lot of guys don't understand is that the problem that a lot of guys haven't resolved is you got to swallow your pride when it comes to this music game. Because if Rex is playing for American Idol and they singing a country and western song, he got to deep tune that snare.
Oh yeah.
And go do 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 do. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like, oh man, he sucked. No, bruh. You go ahead and do all your licks for $45.
Oh yeah. Those checks do not suck, buddy.
Get your $45. Yeah. When Teddy Campbell was playing for the Tonight Show, I said, this brother getting Tonight Show checks. Like, what is happening right now?
That's when I learned we could be who we are.
Yes.
Long as we are professional in those arenas.
Yes.
You could stay who you are because they call you for you. When they call you to preach or whatever, they know who they're getting.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It don't matter what kind of church we in. We know how to camouflage who we are to make it fit into what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I definitely learned from that group. I mean, Teddy, of course. Like, he was just like, yo, bro, be you. Mm-hmm. But make sure you fit within what's being asked so you don't stand out too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't, like, man, honestly, if you really think about your journey, dude, you've had to come behind and play behind some of the most incredible drummers. Like, it seemed like you never got the opportunity to just step in and just be Rex. It was like, okay, now Gerald's gone, now Teddy's gone. All right, what can you do? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you Calvin Rogers is gone.
Think of it like that.
Nah, bro, it seemed like everybody that ever seen you, like, well, Rex got that gig now. You had to go behind Kahari or somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Shout out to Kahari, man. Rest in peace to Kahari, man. Yes, like, man. He another one whose style, people sleep on it.
Yep.
Like, style was
his own thing.
Totally different. But you always followed those guys. So it was like, And the fact that you kept those jobs.
Yeah.
Because how many
Right.
dudes have you seen that have tried to fill in for somebody or replace somebody, and the artist is just like, no. Because I'm going to tell y'all, all of you young guys that really feel like, yo, I want to be playing for this person, that person. Man, some of these artists are very difficult people.
Oh, man.
They're very difficult, and they like what they like,
Yeah.
and they don't care about your feelings. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like when you get these platforms to talk like this, it's trying to get these guys game, because if you sensitive, you going to the crib.
Oh, that's exactly where you're going. And you're going to stay.
Yeah.
If you don't, because you have to remove self out of the equation.
Sure.
And like I said, we try to make stuff look cool or whatever the case may be. But them behind closed doors conversations is like, I remember
Man.
Mary specifically, we was about to do, matter of fact, I'll say this, Aaron Spears, prime example, right?
Yeah.
So when Aaron took off with Usher, that was right before I got with Mary.
Yeah.
He got with Usher maybe like 3-4 months before I got with Mary. So Aaron had already began his client. It was like, but we was by this time, we in New York rehearsing with Mary, right?
Okay.
He's in New York doing the Good Morning America, I think, with Usher.
The outside joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's like, yo, bro, man, we going to come up. This 2004.
Jesus.
This is March 2004. I'll never forget it.
Jesus.
We in rehearsal. He's like, I'm going to come up there. I was like, you don't really need to. Like, it's, I was about to lie and say rehearsal was closed, but these the homies. He was like, we coming. They come up in there. It's him, Val, Buddy.
Natural, buddy.
Natural.
Yeah.
So we playing. I get nervous immediately. Now, mind you, this is my boy, but still, it was just different. So
Yeah.
we playing this. If you look at Mary's DVD, well, that's what it was then. When we got to the solos on I Could Love You, bum, 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 out of all the parts we could have been playing, that was the section we was going into when they walked in.
Wow.
I have a solo in that section.
Yeah.
You don't solo in front of Aaron Spears.
Right,
It's
right,
just it's unnecessary because nothing you do is gonna make him feel like. But we're playing, and I'm coming behind Gerald, so I'm still trying to find my way. We play the part, we get through it. After we done, we talk, right? He's like, nah, bro, you sound good. He was like, man, but do me a favor. He was like, that's your moment, right? It's just the band. He said, open your hi-hat. Because I was playing thump, 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 boom. He was like, nah, bro, they can't hear that.
Come on, man.
And I was like, bro, you're right. But in my mind, I was so in the zone of trying to not mess up.
Yeah.
He was like, nah, bro, you here for a reason.
Yeah.
That moment, if you look at the DVD now, that's where I got what I played from.
Wow.
Because he was one of them guys, and I knew it's like he's Aaron. So I knew he knew what he was talking about, but it was one of them things, that battery you needed from a certain individual.
Dude, you know what, man? I wish more. I would love, and I said I was going to do this, and I don't know if I have an opportunity. Me and Wally and Mickey talked about this about 6 weeks ago. I said, man, I've hosted a lot of big conferences. I think I need to do a musicians conference, and I need to bring, because I can afford it and I got the relationships. I need to bring all of y'all, you, Cal, Spanky, everybody to one place. And I told them I'm not going to charge for it. I'm going to say, churches, y'all need to send all your musicians, R&B guys, everybody.
That would go crazy.
And I want to converse because of what you just said. The minor details will decipher how far you go in this game. And this is what I learned. I learned this from Fred and from Calvin. And I give them all the credit for this. When I did my first tour with them, we were in rehearsal, and you know me, man, I love intricate parts of songs and licks and all of that. That stuff translates well on albums.
Yeah.
And we were working on a song, and I said, Calvin, right here, man, we should hit this. And what I hit made everybody in the studio go, oof. Like even Fred was like, that's clean, that's nice. And Cal was like, that's dope, but it ain't gonna translate. And I said, what? Like at the time, I didn't know what he meant.
Right.
I'm like, what, you just heard it? Everybody just heard it. And Fred said, nah, Cal is right. He said, we all heard it, but that's not something that the audience will understand, nor will they pay attention to. It's a waste of a space because it's not gonna translate. He said, everything that we do, you can't think about it from the standpoint of us being in this small room. You got to think about it from the standpoint of 10, 11,000 people. So people are asked, to me, in my opinion, they'll ask me, like, who's the best musicians for a live set? I always say Calvin, this is a true story, Calvin Rogers, Rex Hardy. I said, because the one thing that they understand is y'all want me to do ghost notes that nobody's gonna hear in a stadium. Rex does. I remember one white guy. He was at a drum seminar. He's like, your sonic effects on the drums are incredible. And he was like, yeah, all right, never heard that before.
Right.
But it's the truth, because this don't translate. That don't translate. The translation is pam, 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 pam. So you hear a lot of orchestration hits. Those are old school sounds. But the reason why we use those is because they cut through the speakers. People don't know music. They only know feeling.
Absolutely.
So if they can't feel it, they don't know what you do. I remember telling Brent, man, this is a true story, and Brent knows it. I said, Brent, your drum rolls and your licks are incredible, but the crowd don't know what you're doing. And I told him this, Brent, you know I said it. I said, look, if you want to make the crowd go crazy, spin the drumstick, because Brent can spin sticks.
Yeah.
I said, you got to spin the drumstick. They don't understand paradiddles. They don't understand ghost notes. They don't know none of that. All they know is noise. So if you spin the cymbals and spin the sticks and hit the cymbals, they gonna go ham. I've seen Brent do some of the most phenomenal drumming, and nobody says anything. They're just like, okay, he's good. Yeah. As soon as he start twirling sticks and hitting cymbals, woo!
They're like, oh yeah,
he's amazing, because the only thing they know is what is visually stimulates them and what audibly stimulates them. So when it comes to, like you said, open the hi-hat, you tell a drummer that and they're like, well, I don't think that, it's not about you. Yeah. It's got to translate so that these people actually understand what's going on. Man, you could do a piano solo and be hitting stuff that only Chick Corea, Art Tatum, and Oscar Peterson would understand. And the crowd ain't going to do nothing. Listen to me, bro. I did a solo one time. This is a true story. This is crazy, but it's true. I soloed behind Floyd, Reggie Strong, and these is all killers. This is when they at their top. These dudes is killing. And they was like, all right, YPJ, come on, give us a little something. Man, I can't do none of the stuff them boys doing. I start playing, because I'm smart. I said, I'm about to get the crowd. They didn't get the crowd. They got the musicians. Yeah. And they was playing the musicians. I started playing da-da-da-da-da-da-boom, da-da-da-da-da. Crowd went crazy.
Lost it.
Because they recognized it. They didn't understand nothing that Floyd was doing. I did, they didn't.
Yeah.
So with a lot of musicians, man, they don't get it. When you do a gig with Mary J. Blige, you're not playing for 6 drummers.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Like, listen, you can get on Mary's tour right now and start doing the craziest drum rolls. Nobody cares. The crowd is gonna recognize boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Soon as Rex Hardy hits that, he's the greatest drummer in the world, because they recognize it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always tell people, I'm like, it's certain drum beats that as soon as you hear it, Phil Collins got the greatest drum roll in the history of drumming, man. In the history of drum, you can't name but a couple other drum rolls that's recognizable by everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
I can't. It's like,
and it's the simplest drum. Our grandmother
could play that drum roll,
literally,
but it's immortalized. Whereas, that's not immortalized. It's only something that musicians recognize. So when I say we need to have a conference and sit with these guys and tell them the truth about this stuff. Yeah. Hey, there's certain artists you're going to tour with, and you're going to play in front of 20,000 people, and you're going to get $500. If you get that. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I know y'all think I watch dudes make fun of drummers like Jonathan Sugarfoot.
Oh, yeah. Play
for Michael Jackson. Yeah, he ain't good. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he a pocket drummer. Like, he ain't. In the I won't say that. I'm sorry, sir. In the standard of chops and licks.
What certain people call good.
He can't do none of that.
Yeah.
So we laughing at him because he going, pss, 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 pss. When he was playing for Michael Jackson, them checks was insane, sir.
He was good on that side.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, bro, so you want to make fun of this dude because you can out chop him, but you making $35 a week at a church. Right. This man do one hit with Michael Jackson and bring it back a check that most people ain't getting.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? When Cassie told me how much she was making playing for Prince, I ain't going to put her money out there. I said, wait a minute, what?
Oh, yeah.
She said, we on retainer.
She a problem, too.
Oh, she's no, she's a savant.
Oh, yeah.
That girl is a savant. Yeah, I haven't talked to her in years. She's a savant. Like, when I say she can hear something one time and just go, blah, 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 and play it, it's unreal, man. But she told me, she's like, we on retainer. Like, Prince keep us on retainer. If he ain't performing, we still getting checks. Because he'll call us tomorrow and be like, I want to do a show tomorrow.
Yeah. And you have to be available.
But the money?
Yeah.
Think about it with them dudes is, this is what I'm saying. You could say, oh, they not as skilled as this YouTube phenomenon over here. I'm like, bro, y'all don't get the game, because these people are doing these shows. I remember when John Blackwell was playing for Prince. Like, me and Calvin went to the Chicago show, and we was laughing. Rest in peace, John Blackwell. He don't get enough credit.
Absolutely.
John was unique. You know what I'm saying? They say there's a story of John Blackwell soloing against Aaron Spears, and it was really bad.
I heard about that.
I don't know if that's.
I haven't seen it.
They said it was a video, but they burned it.
Yeah.
But John Blackwell played, and Calvin was laughing. He said, "Man, I need this gig, man."
Yeah.
Because John didn't really do a lot. He just spun sticks. But I was like, "Yo, John playing for Prince, making God knows how much money, and these dudes, he suck. What is success then?"
And that's one of the things. What we put as successful or good or great is wrong. It's not that it's bad, it's just wrong.
Nah, it's bad, dog. It's bad.
And I guess I said that because, again, everybody plays different. Everybody approaches music different. But you have to have different versions of you.
Yes, man.
And that's my whole thing.
Yes.
Because there's some drummers, they could play some stuff. I'll be like, wow, I know I can't play
unreal.
That. You be like, how long did you oh, man, I'm just working out. Okay, my thing is, now take that. Now, what would this version of you do if you couldn't do that?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And that's all, because we talk about it all the time. Be you.
Yeah.
If that's part of you, that's cool. But you have to have, like, you can't dress like this everywhere you go.
Absolutely not.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely not.
But you still walk in as YPJ. It's like,
they know
just
who I
YPJ with a suit on.
Dude, you know how many musicians, and I like I said, I'm not going to say names because it sounds like a bad thing, but there's so many musicians that we both know from the Midwest who are great musical musicians. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to sheds, I would put money on them against anybody.
Oh, yeah.
But they, but the average musical has never heard of them.
Yeah.
And they never will, because they can't do anything. Calvin and I got a drummer, and I'm not going to say his name, who we both think is one of the greatest choppers to come out of Chicago. And he ain't never been heard of because he can't play straight.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, but he cannot play straight. Now, if you give him a Rain on Us solo, you finna
it's
be
a
like,
rap.
oh, it ain't even comparable. It's like, oh man, I seen this dude do something. I can't show it because everybody would know what I'm talking about. I seen him do something physically on the drums that I didn't even know was physically possible.
Yep, and I know exactly now that you said it.
Bro, I didn't know it was physically possible.
Neither did we.
And I was sitting there like, it was so cold, I didn't even cheer. I just was like,
so caught up in the moment.
I said, wait a minute, man, what? That can be done?
Yeah, bro.
So a lot of guys don't know how to adapt to an environment. You know, they'll say, man, YPJ. One guy said this the other day. I just talked about this on my Bible study earlier. Guy said, I don't see what the hype is about YPJ. His teaching and preaching is so simple.
Somebody said,
yeah, they told that to one of my boys. He said, wait a minute, you sound like a hater. My boy told, he's like, you sound like a hater, man. He's like, no, I'm just saying, it just seems like he just teaches really simple. Well, what he don't understand is, if you want to go seminary with me, I can work and walk with the best of them.
Oh, yeah.
But I discovered something, that all of that deep intellectual conversation, it doesn't have impact on the crowd, because most people don't want to think at that level.
Yeah.
They want basic principles that can be applied to their everyday life. So I had to stop being so intellectual in my approach and tone it down so I could reach the masses. And that's when the crowd grew.
Yeah.
Because when people get on social media, they ain't trying to think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Fred told me that. He said, man, people ain't trying to think. They want to feel.
Yeah.
So if I post something about, the millennium period of the Bible, where we have amillennialism, premillennialism, postmillennialism, and I go into all that, 10 likes.
Yeah.
But
max.
At max. And those 10 people are, you know what I'm saying, like theologians.
Yeah.
But if I get on and say, man, friendship is this, everybody can relate to that. Or, when it comes to relationships, blah, 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 1 million views, because it's relatable. If you can't adapt, then you'll never see the potential that you have. And with a lot of musicians, man, they care so much about impressing 4 musicians that they don't see the bigger picture. I've watched one musician become a legend in his time, and that's Corey Henry.
Oh,
Like when I first met Corey, he was very young.
Yeah.
And when I say I love him, like that's my heart. I love Corey.
Yeah, Corey's
I've watched
amazing.
Corey become a legend in his own life. He ain't even 40 yet, and he's a legend already.
Yeah,
right.
legit he is. Yeah.
Corey is so much better than what people know, like because he's become such a great artist and a performer. And I've heard dudes be like, "Man, Corey used to be cold on." Sir,
What do you mean?
No. You just going off of them records. I dare you to sit across from him. You get on the keyboard, put him on the keyboard. I'll put my mortgage on Corey Henry. Travis Sales, I'll put my mortgage on Travis Sales.
That's one of my closest friends.
Bro,
Yeah.
First time I heard him play, man, let me tell you something. First time I've never even met Travis in person. We only know each other online. First time I ever heard Travis Sales play was on a keyboard this big.
And he was going for blood.
He was playing Giant Steps or something like that.
Yep.
It was a viral video that was back in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah. And it was a MIDI controller.
It was a MIDI controller.
Yep.
And I watched a dude with I don't think he has no training like that. That dude played Giant Steps and never repeated itself. I had never seen that before. But see, these guys matured and became these phenomenal producers, arrangers, and people think that killer ain't still in there. And I hear these young boys, man, they used to be. I'm like, bro, the stuff y'all doing ain't even close to what them dudes can do.
Right.
Like, don't ever disrespect. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when I think about it, man, I be laughing because I'm like, y'all really don't know the history of all of this.
Yeah.
You know, that a lot of what you're doing is a direct result from people who have paved the way for you before YouTube, before social media, bro, we've literally watched the emergence of all these things. That stuff didn't exist when we was coming up.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Being on a video, you remember the first time you saw John P. Key's Strength video?
What?
Like,
Man, I wanted a Wuhan, China, just because.
this is my
Liddell
point.
coming off the.
Rex, I didn't even know what to call that symbol when I first heard it.
Yeah, man.
I called it a gong.
Right.
I didn't know what it
you
was.
Totally was.
I was like, yo, we got to get one of them gongs, man. It was so bad. People was trying to make them. We was taking broke symbols and stacking
I'm
them
sure,
together.
yeah.
Like, man, when I say everybody, Gerald might have been the first, but like in the Midwest, hydraulic seat, Rex Hardy.
Yeah.
One of the, Calvin at one point was playing with like gloves on and a rag. People wanted a do-rag on their head.
Yeah,
and all
and a
that,
bandana.
like, bandana.
Yeah.
Kevin Randolph had us all buying Fender Rhodes. Like, you got to go down the line of different people. Steve Huff made everybody want to slap and turn the bass up as loud as they could.
Yeah.
So it's just so many different things that we don't talk about, like the various sounds. And we could go back even further when it comes to like music or who was doing what. You know what I'm saying? But when I think about all of that, man, I'm like, I said, Lord, I want to be somewhat of a historian. So like, even to be able to have this conversation is fun for me, because I'm thinking about so many different things that I've witnessed in my lifetime. I got a video at my house somewhere when you came to our church. And this is so funny. Rex was probably 16, 17 when you was hitting with Kenny. It was that long ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I remember you came and you was like, man, I ain't know he was coming to your church, man. Yeah, he still had that little raspy voice.
Yeah.
I ain't know he's coming to your church. And man, y'all played some of the music off Kenny's record. It was like an old record. And it was funny, man. You got up, you killed. We still got all the video footage of it. That video got dubbed so much. We owe y'all money for that, man. they dubbed that video. I know Reggie and them got, like Wally and them all got that video. But after church was over, we was outside. And I remember talking to you, man. I'm in my 20s. You like a teenager. And I was like, bro, man, I said, dude, you one of the coldest drummers I ever heard. He's like, nah, man, I'm just, you know that conference talk. That's you, man. That's you, man. I said, nah, dude, I know for sure, like, one day you're going to be one of the greatest in the world, man. He was like, man. And at the time, he was just playing locally. You know what I'm saying? So when I look, and I'm like, man, this dude really did become one of the greatest drummers in the world. Like,
I appreciate that,
nah, for real, bro. Like, think about it. You've been on the biggest stages. The biggest stage is television. Yeah. Regardless of what people want to say, that's still the biggest stage. If you play at an award show, and at one point, think about when you hit with Idol.
Yeah.
That was when it was Idol.
Yeah, it was smacking.
Like now it ain't really, people still watch it. It's still a phenomenon. But back then, it was Idol. So I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. You playing for American Idol? And then, like, you did a couple of them other shows, too. I don't remember which ones it was.
Yeah, I mean, we went through a whole, because again, at that time, like, the Grammys, BET Awards, of course, all that.
Yeah.
But it was like, even honestly, with that Idol call, bro, it was so weird because the Idol call I didn't get through Teddy.
Really?
No.
I did not know
Teddy
that.
had no clue who they was calling for Idol. I'd lie to you not. So when Teddy, Ricky Minor's band, moved to the Leno show,
Yeah.
they was in a space of like, oh, we got to find some. So they started taking music director, I guess, interviews, auditions, or whatever. Ray Chu was one of the auditions, interviews, however you want to call it. And I had done a few shows with Ray by then, like a few just spot shows. And Ray, out of nowhere, he called me. He was like, yo, man, I may need you later this year. So this was like that summer.
Yeah.
He's like, I may need you later this year and next year for like 5 months. He was like, but you have to commit. I was like, well, what is it? He was like, well, I'll tell you once I get the contracts and everything. Man, Ray called me. He was like, yo, man, you want to do American Idol? I was like, excuse me? I was like, are you serious? He was like, yeah. He was like, you want... I said, Ray, let me call you back. So like, let me just... and then I called him back. I was like, man, if it's for real, I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because when he asked me, I immediately started thinking, like, it's no way you can remember all those songs because the only vision I had was Teddy.
Yeah.
And they going through songs. They
ridiculous.
Over 100, well over 100 songs a week that you had to learn or whatever the case was. Then I called Teddy. I said, bro, guess what I just got called for? He's like, what? I was like, Idol. He was like, word? He was like, you doing it, right? I was like, definitely. But it took me back to the conversation me and him had.
Yeah.
Where he said, bro, you got to get your reading up.
Mm-hmm.
And had I not got my reading up.
Oh, you wouldn't have been able to handle that.
It would have been a wrap. But even when I think about Idol now, I still can't believe I did that show.
Man.
I really can't, bro. I lied to you not.
And when I say that was the only reason I was watching it, because I didn't care about Idol. When I found out you was playing, I remember watching it because I was so blown away by your diversity. I said, this dude is really a professional. Like, bro, the music y'all had to play, there was only one. I can only remember one time where I heard Rex.
Yeah.
Like, where it was like, oh, that's Chicago Rex right there.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really no room for it. It wasn't like, man, it's a whole lot of spots where you can just go crazy. Like, you always made the band sound good. But I remember specifically, it seemed like it was a bounce. Something was going on. And, man, I remember you hit one roll. I was like, Rex is there. Like, that's Rex. Like,
right.
So, nah, man, that to me, you got to think about it. Coming from playing the drums at your mom's church in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
To being on tour with Mary and doing stadiums, to doing Idol, which at the time, like I said, Idol is still a thing.
Yeah.
But it ain't Simon, Randy, Paula Idol. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like what it was. That was a different time frame where people really felt like this is my only opportunity to be in the music industry. So everybody was watching Idol. Yeah. And again, this is when TV is still the biggest form of entertainment, before streaming services, before all of that. Like, bear in mind, I bought Netflix streaming when it first dropped. The first week Netflix streaming dropped, Netflix was $7.99, and they only had B-list movies on there. Wasn't no A-list movies. So I've been a part of that whole thing on an iPad. So TV was still, we got tube TVs. This ain't even flat screens yet. Yeah. I'm watching Rex do American Idol on a black TV that's a 13-inch in my studio at the church. And I'm like, bro, that's how long ago this stuff is. It's almost crazy now to think about it. Yeah. But to see God bless you to do that, and then to watch God bless you to go to I mean, come on, man. I've watched you have kids, get married. Like, I'm looking at, you know what I'm saying? I feel like your son was just born and he bigger than me now.
Oh, my God. Trey's so tall.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, what is going on? So to see, man, just what the Lord has done, I feel like it's our responsibility to tell these stories. I think it's our responsibility to give knowledge to the people that want to learn. Because there's a lot of guys that are like, and girls that are willing to. That's another thing. The female musician thing.
Oh, my God.
That didn't exist when we was coming up. It wasn't none. It was a couple. Remember Cheryl, what was her name? Cheryl
Burton? I mean, not Burton. That's the news lady. No. Cheryl Harper.
Harper.
Yeah.
She was like the only girl drummer. She had the double.
I think Cheryl played Stir Up the Gift.
I think she did.
Yeah.
I think she did, like, man.
Ooh, okay.
Like, Cheryl was gigging. She did all the James Moore stuff back in the day. Like,
Kurt Carr.
She was gigging, bro. Like, I remember I met her, man. She was so cool. She was like, "Oh man, I love your music. You the MySpace guy." I'm like, "Yeah," but there wasn't no girl musicians that can keep up. That sounds chauvinist. I get it. I'm just telling y'all the truth. Back then, that wasn't common. I can't name any women. You had women that played at church, who could upright. I'm talking about band musicians. Now, some of these girls, bro, I'm talking about they can go. Like, you like
definitely.
You like, I mean, saying it's all girl bands that will give some of these dudes a run for their money.
And I tell people all the time, like, I love to hear women that sound like great musicians. Because when you start getting into man, they sound good for a female. It's like, well, what does that even mean?
Nah, bro.
Like, no, I want it to be where I say this all the time, you behind the curtain, you can't tell
who it
what is playing behind there.
Bro, that's how Mickey is like.
Oh, man, please. I've been begging Mickey to go on the road. It's going to happen. Mickey's so good. Mickey's so good, she irritate me. Yeah. Like, it's been times we've been at church and I look at her and be like, come on, man. Like, do what you do. And then, like, I'll put her on the spot with, like, man, just play. And she's anointed. So it's like the whole thing. But I look, man, and I see, like, these kids. I see these girls coming up. I see even like in the urban community, they don't want to admit it, but a lot of different cultures they've always taken from us. And I see the influence that y'all have, and I'm watching these guys. I seen this white dude the other day playing the drums. I'm like, bro, what church you been studying under? Because you can't. That's church drumming. So I went to his page. Absolutely was in like black Pentecostal sheds. Oh yeah.
Like, just listening and learning. I'm like, bro, they go to Harvard. I'm not Harvard. They go to Berkeley and all these different places and like learn theory. I'm like, bro, our theory was Sunday morning.
Oh yeah, that's all the theory we needed.
And it wasn't. This is the thing that I love, man. And I miss it a little bit. Now, man, we're very meticulous about rehearsals and the song list. Wasn't no song list. You showed up on Sunday and whatever they started singing, that's what you started playing.
That's what you locked
Wasn't
into.
listen, the only thing that they practiced was choir music. Wasn't no praise and worship set.
Oh no.
Bro, it was song service. And I think about it. They didn't say put me in this key. They just started singing. And as a keyboard player, you just had to be able to go there, man, and go to work. As a bass player, you had to go to work. Drummers knew, like, back in the day, because it wasn't no metronomes and it wasn't no drum machines. The drummer used to catch hell.
Oh yeah.
You dragging, you know what I'm saying? But that stuff taught us timing out of this world, man. Like, so I always tell people the greatest musicians coming out to church. You say what you want to say. I'll put a church band up against anybody.
Oh, in a heartbeat. But I will say, you know what? And I will say this, even going back to what you said a little minute ago, when you talked about the simplicity of certain things, like in the music community. But I also like how like you said, you practice that even when you preach. Yeah. Because the simplicity of what we do, that carries so much further.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying? Absolutely. And I thought about like Apostle Richard D. Hinton and his brother.
Yeah.
Pastor, I
can't remember his name, but I know
it was Donald, but I don't know if it was Apostle Donald or
I don't remember Donald. That was his name.
Yeah,
I don't
remember. Crazy story. My father had a janitorial engineering company.
Okay.
Right. One of his contracts was Monument of Faith, the one where it is now. Yeah. We would go clean after they would get out of church, right?
Yeah.
So you would hear, like, we would get there maybe in time they were ending, and I would hear Donald Hinton, dog, he be up speaking. The words he used were so far away from what I was. Dog, and you used to have people sitting there like, you could use context clues,
man,
from what he was saying.
Yeah, he was on some Noel Jones.
Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. But then you would see Apostle Richard Hinton get up, and he would say stuff on our level.
Ain't nobody God but God.
It was like, okay,
man, dude. Because here, okay, think about this. People say jazz is a dying form of music. It's not dying. It's just not relatable.
Yeah.
Like the average I'm going to tell you, one of the greatest musical geniuses of our time is Derek Hodge, bass player Derek Hodge.
Derek
is a mastermind.
Yeah.
His music doesn't translate on the mainstream because it is so beautifully complex that only, that's why Chris Dave, like, the stuff Chris does is so futuristic. I think he's got about 30 years before people actually understand exactly what's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I remember one time Chris was playing, Stakes is High, De La Souls.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Mos Def was there. And I'm going to go back to what I was making my point. Mos Def was there, and when he was hitting it, and then, Chris, he started going,
Yeah.
and Mos Def was looking at him going like, because he thought Chris didn't know what he was doing. Like, oh, he must not know the beat. No, Chris knows the beat. He's just being Chris Dave, but most couldn't understand what was happening. So it's like he was trying to coach him, like, no, the beat is doom. No, Chris knows the beat.
Yeah.
He's just above, like he's on another planet. You don't know what's happening right now, brother.
Absolutely.
So you would sound like gibberish, but to all of us, we like, what? Derek High, same way. A lot of times these guys, they don't know what's happening. So if Derek High's get on, start going, and like we don't get it. But if I go boom, 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 everybody like, oh. The reason why we simplify is so everybody can enjoy it. Because sometimes we do our own thing, and even though it's good to us, everybody can enjoy it. Man, out of all the music videos I put up, and sometimes I'll play songs nobody's ever even heard of, and I noticed that the musicians like Rodney East, God bless Rodney East, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. That's another one.
Absolutely.
You need to get him on this couch. Rodney East, who somebody like that will hit it and be like, that's dope, because they know it. Aaron Williams, they know it. They're like, oh, that's dope. But then I'll play D'Angelo, and it gets 100,000 views.
Easily.
Because they can all enjoy it. Yeah. So a lot of times with preaching, what I realize is, man, I'm not preaching to theologians.
Yeah.
I'm preaching to ex-drug dealers. I'm preaching to current drug dealers. I'm preaching to, ex-prostitutes and current church hoes. I'm preaching to,
Absolutely.
Intellectuals, but I got to teach at a level where everybody can enjoy it. And with music, a lot of times, it's okay to make music for yourself that you make but if you're trying to make a project that you want everybody to enjoy, you got to dumb it down. Yeah. And it is what it is, because the average person doesn't know chord structures, bass lines. They only know what feels good to them. And most of the time, songs that feel good, Kirk Franklin's going to always dominate gospel for the rest, until he decides he don't want to do it no more.
Until he decides,
because one thing about Kirk, he going to always make music that makes everybody feel good. It just is what it is. Like, Fred is always going to have a place in gospel because he will always find a song that will translate. I remember when we did I Feel Good with Fred, I got nominated for a Grammy for that song, because I was a part of that writing process. And we had wrote another song called Better Love. It's on the God Loving Romance album. I wrote on that as well.
Oh, dope.
Man,
okay.
Better Love that song is hard. And you've never heard of that song. Like,
no, I gotta, but I'm about to now.
Listen to me. Nobody's ever heard of that song. Because Fred told me that day, I said, Fred, this the one, dog. He said, no, it's not. I said, no, Fred, this song is cold. He said, oh, no, this song is cold, but this ain't the one. I said, why? He said, too musical. He said, this song will do good for those who are Fred Hammond fans and those that like music. He said, this the one. I feel good and I know it. Yeah. I'm like, what is this? So we all start writing on that. I was like, man, what is this? Fred said to me, look me in my face. He said, that's the one. I was like, nah, man. Next thing I know, Grammy nomination. And anytime from that point forward, he said anything, I was like, he know what he's talking about. And he told me, he said, this makes everybody feel good.
Yeah.
Better Love makes you feel good because you're a musician and you love melodies and chord structures. He said, but everybody can sing, I feel good and I know it. So Kirk Franklin writes, even though it hurts, I smile. It's relatable to everybody, man. That's why Mary's career just keeps rolling, because she writes songs that people can feel.
Absolutely.
She said hateration, holleration. Them ain't even words.
Yeah. Two of the worst words. Even when we play, it was like, what does that
this
even...
dancery, those words don't exist, but people like saying it, bro. And I think when we realize as musicians, there's a time and a place for everything. Like Aaron told you, this is your time.
Yeah.
Make that count. Every other moment is her time. So you here to make her look good, which is why most guys don't make it. I seen a dude get fired off a Fred Hammond gig just off the strength of him not realizing this show is not about you.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
He said straight out the
yo,
gate. It's like, nah,
and
bro.
he's I can't say his name either. I think Fred had him on the road for like 4 or 5 days. And he was like, get him out of here, man. Because he's super talented, but he just didn't understand. This ain't about you, bruh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot to talk about, man. Like, I honestly, dude, this conversation has been, for me, great fuel because I'm remembering a lot of things that I don't even think about. I've suppressed a lot of my musical side. If I cut a record, it's going to be because of this conversation today. Like, I'm
Well,
like, okay.
there you go. He said it here.
Yeah.
He said, I'm just trying to flip what you said. He said he's cutting a record because of this conversation. So whatever type of spin we need to put on that clip, no, but it's needed, bro. It's really needed because your lane hasn't been taken. And that's what I try to get people to understand. Like, man, we all got certain people be like, I'm going to stay in my lane. Okay, I get. And then some people was like, what does staying in your lane mean? Like, I want to do everything. Staying in your lane means doing everything as yourself.
As yourself. That's all it means.
That's it. We're not saying you can't jump over here and do this. Try whatever. You get what I'm saying? But that's one thing, like, with you, like, your lane, especially your music lane. I mean, your preaching lane, that's a whole, like I said, you be getting me through some stuff, and I'll be like, bro.
Praise God.
And I do want to touch that just for a second before we wrap up, too. But your music lane, bro, that hasn't been touched. You know what I'm saying? There's certain people, it's like if Carl Thomas come out with another album.
Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah, you ain't lying, because there's never been anything like that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I told Dave Hollister when I talked to him, I said, bro, we need you.
He's his own thing.
Who you are hasn't been duplicated.
And it never will be. It's like
Ever.
Eric Dawkins and Dawkins. Them two brothers, they don't.
They was, first of all, they were way too far ahead.
God, that Need to Know record. Well, I didn't even know what was going on back then. I'm like, what is this?
I'm like, dog, are they serious? And then to be friends with like Eric, that's the homie, and it's like still to have that relationship.
Yeah.
But think back to then, I was like, Eric, man, I remember subbing at Salem in the youth church.
Wow.
Yep, in the annex.
Wow.
And Barris was like, yo, bro, Dawkins and Dawkins gonna be here Sunday or in a couple weeks, whenever they was coming. He was like, so we gonna rehearse. Mind you, they was bringing tracks, but the way Barris programmed, they tracks would go off and bam, we kicked right in. But I mean, loops, the whole. So it's like to do that with those guys then, and still look at them now. Like your lane,
it's never been touched,
still ever. So that's something we gotta do, bro. Like we gotta make that music. I come to South Bend.
Oh no, it ain't no question about it, man. I can't let everybody play on my music, because the problem is everybody don't understand my music.
Facts, yeah.
So it's like a guy will hear it and be like, "Oh, this is what I think of it." Nah, my music is different in that every musician has their specific part, and it's like I don't want you to sound like nobody. I need you to sound like yourself, and most people can't do that. If you ask Wally and Brent, I've never told them to do a drum roll. I've never said, "Hey, do this drum roll." It's always like, do whatever you want. Like with Mickey, it's like, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do whatever you want, and I'll build around that, because you need to express, which is why if you listen to a FEC record, you can close your eyes and know who's on the drums.
Yeah, fact.
Immediately. You can know who's on the bass. You can know, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's so special that I know you're drumming with my eyes closed. I know Calvin. It don't matter how many people sound like y'all.
Yeah.
I just know y'all with my eyes closed. I know Philip Feaster's playing, top 5 guys ever. I know it with my eyes closed. I'm like, that's Philip. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it special, is when you have a sound that is recognizable with your eye. Like Cedric Thompson, one of the greatest piano players ever, man. Like, I know Cedric Thompson because I used to just listen to him all the time. And I want people to get back to what you just said. The thing about it is God blesses your lane. Whatever your lane is, he's going to put so much oil on it that it's recognizable to even a person that's like, yo, that sound like so-and-so. It's like right now, if you call your kids by name, they know they daddy calling them. Yeah. They know your voice. It's been around. It could be guys that sound like you, and they know your voice because you've been around them so long. That's how God wants to bless people, to operate in such a uniqueness and originality that people know immediately, this is this person, this is that person. And we don't see it that much because we live in a time of imitation. Imitation is celebrated now. when I was growing up, if you sounded like everybody, they talked about you.
Yeah.
But now if you sound different from everybody, they talk about you. Like, when we was coming up with rap, all the rappers had their own style. Now every rapper sound exactly the same. I can't tell who's who.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But because the enemy always sells imitation, but God pushes uniqueness, man. And I think it's really dope to see moments like these where, and I'm telling you, man, you got to keep doing this because y'all be telling stories that people be like, oh, that's why that happened. Yeah. You can finally create your own narrative of how this all came to be and how, like I said, the Oh My God story, I've never told that before. Nobody knows that but me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never even shared like how that whole thing went down. And that ended up being the one song that I played the drums on, ended up being the song that everybody was like, so you just never know how God will bless if you stay in your lane. You know what I'm saying?
No, those are true words. And you've been living by that forever.
Man.
So that's why I know you ain't just talking just to be talking.
Nah,
you
bro.
never do. When you say something, it's like, no, be quiet and listen. But like, so let me ask you this, and then we'll wrap up. The transition, like, where are you now when it comes to the transition you made from music to being a pastor? Because you're so heavy. Like I said, I don't think people knew how heavy you were and are in music, but was that transition hard for you? Like, is it something you wanted to do? Is it something you fought against? Is it, like what? How did that go?
With the pastoring, man, I knew I was called to it when I was younger. It just naturally was a part of my journey when I was a youth pastor and just how young people gravitated to me, man. At one point, I would have youth church on Wednesdays, man. We had 250 teenagers just coming to church.
Youth was going crazy.
Our teen church was bigger than almost every church in the city. Yeah. Like, so our church was always blessed to be a large congregation because my parents were incredible leaders. But for me to have 250 teenagers coming, man, to church without their parents on a Wednesday.
That's unheard of.
It was unreal. Yeah. Like, and so I knew something was on my life because people would follow me. And it was told to me, a prophetic word was given, people will always follow you. You're a leader. People are going to always follow you. And so when my dad told me, he said, son, I think it's time for you to step into a senior leader role. I was like, I was going through a divorce, man. There was so much craziness going on. I lost unintentionally my commitment to music. And it was the biggest mistake I've ever made. I tell any pastor who's a musician or a musician that's going to be a pastor, don't stop playing. Like, that was all. Do you know most of the pastors that you know play an instrument? A great deal of the pastors most of the guys that you see out here that are like big time preachers, they either sing or they play an instrument. Oh, yeah, you just don't know it because they stopped. Mm-hmm. Like, most of them were organists, drummers, etc. If I put together a pastoral band right now, man, I could put together like, people don't know Jason Nelson is one of the baddest bass players.
What? Man, listen.
Anybody, they don't, you know what I'm saying?
Somebody was just having that conversation the other day.
Bro, he cold.
Yeah.
But it's some dudes that could play keys, play drums, play lead guitar, but they stopped. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was I let the transition between pastoring, going through a divorce, that's why I stopped making music. Gotcha. So I went to that spell of, man, I'm cool. I'm gonna just pastor people. And one day God spoke to me and said, I never told you to stop playing. And when I picked back up, man, I was like, I'm dated. Ain't nobody going to hear me. And Mickey was actually responsible, man, for putting me back. It's crazy how things go full circle. She did her first concert and she was like, hey, would you play keys on my concert? I'm like, Mick, I can't. She's like, bro, I need you to play keys. And man, it was me and all it was Wally. Me, Wally, DW, my nephew Derek, all these good musicians. I'm like, man, and I'm playing. And I remember, man, just the excitement that the younger kids had, like YPJ playing. And I was like, yo, so I did that. And then John P. Key, who he's recovering right now. Love you, God, Pop.
Oh,
he called me and said, hey, I want you to come to this conference I'm doing called SWAP. Shedding with a Purpose. I'm like, all right. So I came down and we did a panel. It was me, him, Lil Tony, and a couple other like heavy hitting guys. It was like 6 of us. I think Nissan was Nissan.
Oh,
like 6 of us. And he said, shout out Nissan. He said, man, these the OGs. And when John said that, there was hundreds of musicians there. He said, these the OGs. And man, I walked around that room and these kids taking pictures with me, asked, man, can you sign this kid? I'm like, what is going on right now? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they was like, man, you don't understand. Like, the way I play, I patterned it after you. When I started hearing people say that to me, I was like, God, you right. I never should have put it down. So when I took over as pastor, I let go of one of the things that God gave me as a form of relatability in ministry, like the ability to reach a generation because I understand music. I understand how they think. I understand how musicians are. And so I would tell anybody that's called into ministry, don't give up something else just because you've been called to do this. And I see a lot of guys do that. They're like, man, you know, I got to lead God's people. Make it a part of it. So now every Sunday, man, I'm a part of leading worship. There are times where I'm getting ready to have a grand piano delivered to my church in the next month, right? Because some Sundays, man, I just need to sit down with the band and play what I hear. Yeah. And like, hey, I hear this, and then we're going to worship from there. So it's been a journey, man, and I'm really blessed that, like, even when John did that, he was like, man, you an OG in this. And I'm like, that's crazy. But it really is amazing when you think about how it all started and to hear people from all over the world tell you, man, you changed my life musically. You changed the way I see the keyboard. You changed the way. And I'm sitting here going, I'm in this little rat-infested studio with a Dell computer that crashed. You know what I'm saying? And so it creates even this conversation, man, you've encouraged me because it's like, a lot of times I didn't think y'all was listening to me. You know what I'm saying?
Man, please.
I was telling y'all, like, Rex, man, you the greatest. I wasn't gassing y'all. I really had, the Bible talks about the gift of encouragement. I always was so happy just to see what y'all was. One thing about me, man, I've been jealous one time in my life. Once. When I got divorced, my ex went right to another dude. And I was hurt. So I felt jealousy. And I was like, I don't ever want to feel this again. Mm-hmm. Like, because I've never been jealous. I've always been like, wow, this dude good.
Yeah, that's never,
good. You know what I'm saying?
That ain't even your thing.
Nah, man. So to know that y'all was actually listening, I'll be like, because Brent will tell me, like, because I remember when you said, I was like, you was listening to me? It's like, yeah, I was listening to you. You know what I'm saying?
What?
I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? So it's a blessing, man, just to see it all come back full circle, man. I think I got one more round in me. We'll see what happens, but I think I got one more round.
Yep. Well, y'all heard him. He said he has one more round in him. And that's on the Untold. We don't tell stories on here.
It's called the Untold Truths, bro.
Listen, no, bro, like I'm telling you, man, you paved the way for a lot of us. Like, just like I said, the way you encourage, your talent, that's a whole different. Your gift that I told you, like playing keys, even when I would link with Mickey and hear her playing, I was like, I love your brother. Because you hear, she's her own person, but
she's evolved.
You hear the influence.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, because I didn't come up around that style, it was like, that's necessary to me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, that's really necessary. And like, for me, I'm not a jealous person. I appreciate everybody who wants to do what they do at a high level.
Yeah.
So your encouragement, man, I'm telling you, bro.
Wow, man.
It goes so much further than you think.
Man, I appreciate it, man. I really, really do. Like I said, I don't talk music anymore. So just this conversation, man, has really been I appreciate you having me on, man. I really do, man.
Bro, listen, this is part 1. I told a couple of the homies, there's people like part 2 may be at your spot.
Come on through, man. Come on through.
But we like, man,
let's do one with the whole Dream Music Band. Let them tell their stories.
Deal.
That would be fun because they're going to make me into a tyrant. You'll see. They'll be like, man, he had us learning music that none of us knew how to play. And he was there. I'll be like, but look how good y'all are now, though. So,
but again, it sparked something in them that they didn't know was there.
I don't know what they became. I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, let's do it, man.
Bro, I'm with that. So shout my guys, Mickey included. I like to just say guys. That's one of the interviews.
Let's do it.
We got to make that happen. But bro, man, listen, I love you, man, and I can't say that enough.
Love you more.
Like,
man.
You've always been there, and just I appreciate you for being you.
Oh man,
I can't say that enough, man. Like, because that's a lost relationship in this day and time, because everybody's about what they can do to push them.
For sure.
You've always been about what you can do to push everybody else.
Wow. Man, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
That means everything, bro.
Thank you for that, Rex. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, so this is another dope episode of The Untold. Shout out to my big bro, YPJ, who pulled up.
Man.
It wasn't even a conversation.
Nah, I'm
he
here.
was like, I'm there.
Yeah.
And I love you for that,
man.
Love
you more, man.
So, check us on the next one. We out here.
Peace.
Love you, bro.
The Untold.
Graphic beats.
The Untold. This is the Untold.